question, Jane. You love criminals and wife beaters and assassins.
And Holland posted a picture of him sitting with Abrego Garcia at a table.
I see these pictures tonight, and I think, boy, the party of women is really covering itself in glory tonight. I mean, I don't understand why the American left falls in love with the worst people. You've got a gang-banging, human trafficking, wife-beating, illegal alien, and a United States senator in a ludicrous display of energy is in El Salvador having Mai Tais and Yahtzee. I do not get it. I do not understand why the left takes on the heroes.
The part of this,
I don't get it.
I think
he has an adjudicated deportation order, and you have Democrat public officials falling all over themselves trying to get him back here without thinking through the next step, which is he's literally going to be deported somewhere else.
So I'm as confused as Scott is, and I promised Jane that Jeff would get the first shot at answering this question this afternoon, because I think it's a valid question.
The question being,
why do you guys love criminals, wife beaters, assassins, thugs? And I'm being serious.
I'm being serious.
Jeff,
you know what I love?
Hold these people up as heroes.
I love the Constitution.
Oh, yeah. Here's the Constitution all of a sudden.
Do you not? Because I used to think conservatives called themselves constitutionalists.
So what part of the Constitution is at issue here?
What part of the Constitution?
You feel like he didn't have due process.
The Supreme Court has repeatedly said, over the last 100+ years, that all people in the United States are entitled to due process. I am not in love.
I think he's had a fair amount of due process
with this individual.
Yeah.
I am not in love with any individual. I am in love with what makes this country great, which is that people have the chance for a fair hearing in a court of law. And we don't know what that's going to end up saying. I have read about his case. I know that in 2019, a court said that he could not be deported to El Salvador because of what had happened to him previously in that case.
Because he was a gang member, because they were going to kill him if he was a gang member. That's a good one.
I am fighting. He had left there when he was 16 years old. Okay. And I am fighting for what makes America, America, for the protections of our Constitution. And in the same way that Reagan appointee Judge Wilkinson said, hey, perhaps it will prove that he should be deported, and perhaps the evidence will show that he shouldn't, but he is entitled to that hearing. And watching the president of the United States act in defiance of court after court is an absolute disgrace.
Well, so I love it personally because this guy
Constitution.
Is not supposed to be here. He's a member of a terrorist gang. He was deported. He has a deportation order. He's got no right to be here in the first place. So Brad and I are going to disagree with all of this. I think he's had ample due process.
No.
I never want to see him in this country again.
No, he's never had due process.
Right.
And that's the problem.
Thank you, Brad.
I'm sorry.
No
Mark,
amount of due process will ever
Brad.
satisfy these guys, Brad. You know that. No amount of due process. They have to go to due process because they realize this guy's got a criminal record. Yeah. He's a wife beater. There wasn't a lot of due process claims a week ago.
I thought it was his spokesperson that was the wife beater.
No, that's a different case.
It's hard.
You're
It's hard
talking about
to
the
keep,
kid
it's hard
in
to keep
Texas.
track. But even if we assume for discussion purposes that he's a member of MS-13, I don't know whether he is, whether he isn't. The only reason we know that he is one line in a statement.
No, that's not true. There's more. There's definitely.
Okay, but
there's a lot. Wait, no.
Let's back up a second. Let's just assume for conversation purposes that he is. Even if he is, it doesn't matter. He gets due process, no matter how reprehensible. And now that we're talking about here on Good Friday, I mean, I'm sorry to make this parallel, but Jesus died for everyone, regardless of how good or bad you are, and the Constitution applies no matter how good or bad you are.
So this guy, let me get some of the facts out here. All right, this guy and 3 other people are arrested outside of a Home Depot in Maryland years ago. 2 of the individuals reached into their waistbands and discarded unknown items under a parked vehicle. This is according to the affidavit. One of them, Christian Hernandez Romero, was immediately recognized as a member of MS-13. Police said that he has an extensive criminal history for multiple assaults, concealing dangerous weapons, burglary, and many other offenses. Another one of the men, also covered in tattoos, identified as a past and proven active member as MS-13. As for Garcia, police recognize his clothing. They think he's in the gang. They claim he's they say he's a member in good standing. Yes, there was a confidential informant, but the confidential informant just matched up with the other information. So what in the world, let's take this claim of due process, which I think is a bunch of BS, out of the picture. What makes you attracted to this guy in particular? Because Jeff, let's be honest about this. You guys want
no. Attracted to this guy in particular.
No, that's not true.
Didn't you listen
to
what Brad just said?
Because I don't believe
I am attracted to the concepts embedded in our Constitution.
I don't
that
believe
give everyone a
and
fair
I don't
hearing.
believe the
I'm not in
media.
love with any particular individual, unlike millions of people in the cult in this country that are in love with anything Donald Trump does or says, no matter how anathema it is to constitutional principles.
I don't
that
remember-
they purport.
A judge
what-
told
here's what
him
I
no.
think.
A judge told him no. That is enough in
Well,
my mind.
the
When it
president of El
comes to-
Salvador
Reagan
also
appointed
said
judge.
no. He's like, I'm not bringing him back. What do you want me to do? Sneak a terrorist into the United States?
No, I mean,
Well,
well, he shouldn't have
that's
done
what
it in
we're
the
gonna
first.
do.
Oh, I'm going to break the law and then say, oh, it's too hard to unravel. You don't get. I get very angry, and I have been on record many times when the left breaks the law and when they violate court orders, it's wrong. When the president does it, it's wrong. Now, the guy is a reprehensible Ted Bundy. I don't care. I agree. You do not violate a court order. You do not tell the courts to go jump in the lake. I mean,
when did they
and
do
if
that?
you've got all the evidence on your side, then why are you so scared of a fair
Because
hearing?
we are not scared of anything. We don't want him back here. We don't want him back here. And we don't want people like him back here, Jeff. We just don't. And there is never an issue where over the last 4 years, I'll give Jane a little credit on this because she did, but I don't remember coming in here taking a stand about the millions and millions of people. You guys want to make him the case that's going to get everyone worried about so-called due process.
no
When
one's going
guess
to
what?
care.
That's not the guy you should have relied on when you found out the information. And Senator Van Hollen has to be one of the more embarrassing people in the entire world right now, flying down there when he's got someone in his own state, a mother who went before a national television audience, except for on CNN where they cut out of her, who lost her daughter brutally to a guy who is not supposed to be here. So I know that you guys want everyone here to vote for you that aren't supposed to be in the country, but the rest of us have had enough of it. We're done with it.
Well, then you know what? Legally, get him out of here and follow the law.
Jane, what's going to
Get
happen
him
if he
out.
comes back here? Let's get him back here. What's going to happen? He's going to be deported right away.
I mean,
well,
but
and
you're not
here's what
saying
we
happened.
that
won't have an
due
issue with
process-
it if it's done in the right way.
Exactly. And here's what will be done. We
Bull.
know what's
Bull.
going to be done.
That is such a lie, Jeff, and you know that.
It is
You-
not a
it is
lie.
a
It's
lie.
the absolute truth.
No, it
and
is not a
and I
truth.
do know it is
That's
the
why I
absolute truth.
actually hope that it'll be flown back here because you're so full of, you know what? You guys don't care about that at all. You just want to make this about, Trump and everything else.
No, I just want to make it that we're going to follow the
Jane,
rules.
Follow
I mean,
the rules.
I've
Yeah,
been, hey, close the border. I am not an immigrant lover. I just think you let them in according to the law, and you get them out according to the law.
Well, he had a
I've
deportation
been
order,
very-
right? An active one.
Right, but the courts get to decide that. Just because you want bureaucrats deciding? I mean, I thought we didn't like bureaucrats. I thought
No,
bureaucrats.
I do not. I don't want
Right.
a bureaucrat
I don't want a
deciding it.
bureaucrat deciding it.
But
That's
I
why
do want to bring
mean,
him in. And listen, the
What would
results
happen if
of
he
that,
comes back?
I'm
Brad?
gonna
What happens?
I'm going to answer that question. The result of the deportation hearing is a foregone conclusion. If he's brought back to this country, he comes back, he's locked up. And when he's locked up, he'll then have a court appearance and you'll have a hearing on whether he can be deported. And once it's proven that he's here illegally, out he goes.
Right.
But that is his right to get that.
Look at your party right now. Van Hollen is live on television with a bunch of people behind him praising him, saying,
well,
thank you,
he's a
Van Hollen."
dork.
This is what you want, though. You want United States senators to go down to El Salvador
No.
to bring back a wife beater and a gang member. That's awesome.
What I want is a president
Congratulations.
that doesn't defy court orders from every jurisdiction.
There was no
That's
court
what I
order
want.
that was defied. You guys want to make up
Yeah, no,
everything
that's exactly
on this
what he did,
case.
and you can't deny it.
You can't
That's
deny it.
exactly what he did.
He violated a court
admitted,
order.
his administration admitted that this was done mistakenly.
Well,
they
that's not
admitted
true
that
either.
in court
But
filings.
and that's what
And now
makes
they
it
act
funny.
like the United States isn't powerful enough to get El Salvador to bring him back. That's pathetic. It's a disgrace.
Well, that's
Well,
what's so
here's the-
funty. They're acting like
What's
it's a
it-
big,
no,
strong
I'll
move.
tell you what a
There's
disgrace
another-
It wasn't a
is.
strong
We're going
move.
to talk about
It was
disgraces.
a mistake.
Wait
It was a
second.
mistake.
You want to put this
That's
as a
true.
disgrace? There is not one person listening this afternoon that thinks that this is a disgrace. Okay, it's not. What's a disgrace is letting millions of people flood across the border. What's a disgrace is
is.
having a guy in the White House slobbering over himself, and now all of a sudden realizing, oh yeah, that's right. Now we got books out about it. You guys cover up everything you can because you don't like Trump. And this is about Trump. This is not about anything more. And it's another 90-10 issue. This isn't even close. Oh, well, then people don't understand the
If this is a
Constitution. You want to fall
90-10
back on
issue,
the
Mark,
Constitution.
Then why was Trump on the issue of immigration favored 65-30 2 months ago? And now he's lost ground on that issue to the point where he's even
No, he hasn't.
underwater.
No, he
yes,
hasn't.
he is.
No.
I'll show it to you.
Okay, show it
yeah,
to me.
It's
Bull.
I will.
I want to say the word that starts with S so much today, you have no idea. And, here's the other thing about that. Where are those people who
Will
are being,
you,
wait,
if
wait,
I
no, wait.
send you this poll between now and the next break, will
Sure,
you admit
but
that
let
I'm
me
right
ask this
in the
question.
next segment?
Well, it depends what poll,
It's
but
a
let me ask this
Gallup poll.
question. Okay. Do you think, this is a fair question, Brad. You jump on here with
I
me.
will.
Do you think that the American people who were lied to for 4 years about Joe Biden, who were lied to about COVID lockdowns and stuff like that, you think they're being, right now, all of a sudden, the media is completely honest about this situation with immigration, right? Have you looked at the headlines? A Maryland father, a Maryland gangbanger. That's what he is.
Yes.
You want to talk about due process? Let's at least label these people accurately. A Maryland gangbanger and wife beater is not getting due process. There you go. I'll admit that.
That's correct.
Even Ted Bundy got due process.
Right. But there's also a greater issue here. And that is that we were told for 4 years during the Biden administration that we could do nothing about the border crossings in the southern border unless Congress acted.
No.
And now
Wow.
Congress hasn't acted. And yet I'm reading story after story that border crossings are down to historic lows. And Congress
And
hasn't done
you,
anything.
Jeff Smith, claimed multiple times last year on the roundtable, well, it's just because Trump didn't let him sign that immigration bill. You did. You cannot deny that. And guess what happened? Miraculously, the border's been solved without that bill.
That's correct. No bill.
That isn't what I claimed.
That's
You totally
shocking to me.
mischaracterized
That's
what I
shocking
said.
to me that
I
happened.
said, no, I didn't say that Biden couldn't do anything about the border. What I did say is that Trump's stated concern that the border was a crisis and an emergency was undermined by his actions of telling Mike Johnson to kill the bill that would have supplied billions of dollars to seal it for his own political gain. That's what I said.
Well, and I need to correct one thing here. I'm looking at some of the comments here on YouTube Live, and one of the things is that Ted Bundy. Somebody's commenting,
That was
Jane, on that Ted Bundy was an American citizen.
Jane loves serial killers too.
I know, but Ted Bundy was a citizen.
Yes.
But you still are entitled to a deportation hearing, regardless of whether you're a citizen or not. Due process applies to everyone within the border of the United States.
Here's what Trump.
And by the way, the United States Supreme Court, his court, he brags. That's how that's why I'm getting reelected, because I made this court. This court told him specifically to bring the ban back.
No, they didn't. No, they did not.
They
Brad?
No, they didn't. You're right.
That's right.
Here's what they did.
They did not.
Here's what they did.
not.
And if you read the opinion, which I did, two things jump out. Number one, they used the word facilitate. And number two, they went to great lengths to say the executive branch cannot be controlled. Foreign policy issues cannot be controlled by the judicial branch. And so they recognized that to try to attempt to turn this into we're going to order you how to deal with other nations. The court doesn't even have that authority under the Constitution. But what they did say was facilitate. Now, listen, I've got
get them somewhere else.
I've got about 40,000, maybe 50,000 words in my vocabulary. I don't know what facilitate actually means.
But it was an order that he was not properly removed from the country.
Correct.
That is without question.
That is without question.
This was an illegal order, and he said he didn't care.
But it doesn't tell him to get a plane and fly in with Navy
he
SEALs
has to
and bust them out
with a hostile foreign government.
Correct.
Who doesn't want to. Well,
Correct.
then
here's what I'd like to do.
He could have been deported somewhere else.
I'd love for Air Force One to fly down there with Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. Let's get Rubio on the plane too. Let's roll out the red carpet for Abrego Garcia. Let's bring him on Air Force One. Let's bring his ass right back here to the United States. Let's put him in front of a judge the next day and let's kick his ass out of the country for good.
Perfect.
There's the compromise we want.
Perfect.
But you know as well as I do,
Perfect.
you guys will never be satisfied by any of that. Never.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Watch out for an accident. We've got one reported westbound 44. It's just past 141, and it's created a delay in that area. So if you are traveling westbound 44, that's what the cause of the problem is. Now, if you are headed into Illinois, it looks fine. We've just got a little bit of moderate volume westbound on the Poplar Street Bridge. Southbound 55, slowing in the construction zone at Bates. Southbound 270, moderate volume from Page down through Manchester. And westbound 70, a little off the pace at Cave Springs. But for the most part, we're still okay. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
I want you to make an appointment for your eyes at Ophthalmology Associates because they are awesome. They have a great staff. I always talk about the doctors because the doctors are awesome. There's no doubt about that. We call them the doctors because more than 250 doctors go and see Greg Birdie, Doctors Raj Malhotra, Robert Rusati, and Andrew Royer. I like to kind of focus on the people that you do not know the names of because I've been in a lot of physician offices. I think we all have over the years. They have an amazing support staff. It is not particularly fun to get your eyes poked around, and I think we all know that. It's not quite as bad as the dentist. No offense to the dentists out there, but it isn't fun. They'll make it really, really comfortable for you, as comfortable as they can. And if you have just some allergy issues, dry eye, whether you need helps with removing cataracts or any kind of cornea surgery, they're the experts here in St. Louis. And of course, even modern LASIK is something that is a lot easier. The technology, just like in anything else, is really advanced. So make an appointment today with Ophthalmology Associates, a real easy, convenient office location near 270 in Manchester. The phone number, 314-966-5000. The website, youridoc.com for Ophthalmology Associates.
Hey, it's Annie with my friend Stewie, and you know Stewart's American Mortgage and the Bagel Loan gets you your mortgage or your refinance at no closing costs. And I have Stewie with me right now. You're all about saving people money. Fiscal responsibility is really in right now, and you've got something up your sleeve for these folks.
You know what, Annie? Some people like to get better cash flow. Other people just want to pay off all their debt. So we're going to do something very, very unique. In Scotland, it was traditional to paint the door red once you paid off your mortgage. So we're going to give you the Red Bagel Challenge. If you refinance with us and you consolidate your debt and you get your mortgage paid off in half the period of time remaining, we're going to give you a $1,000 bonus at the end of that term.
Well, Stewie's all about helping you build your wealth and build equity, and the Bagel Loan is another way to do it. Remember, no closing costs with the Bagel Loan. Reach out to Stewie directly with 314-324-4440. That's 314-324-4440. You can Google Bagel Loan for more information, and MLS number 226715.
There's something new taking shape in downtown St. Louis, an experience unlike anything else in sports. From the hustle on the pitch to all the flags and smoke and 22,000 fans chanting STL in unison throughout Energizer Park. This is more than just a game. This is St. Louis City Soccer. Learn more at stlcitysc.com/tickets and experience it now.
It's time for a $98 AC tune-up.
This portion of the show is sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating and Air. All right, Reardon Roundtable for a Friday afternoon. And we got Jane Duker on the panel. Boy, it was a hot one in the break, too. I kind of like that. I like it when it continues to be hot. All right, let me acknowledge the BS poll that Jeff shared with me. Oh, this is dramatic, the way he's peeled off with support. In April, it was 54% approve of Trump's action. But get this, in March, it was 57%. Oh, my God! He dropped 3 points. That's unbelievable, Jeff, especially with the media coverage being completely against him. I'm shocked that a few percentage points were ticked off of that. I really am.
People were asked, should Trump keep deporting people despite a court order to stop?
Right. Wait.
40% said yes. 56% said no.
Let's pose the
couple
question
months
differently.
ago.
Let's pose the question
approval
differently.
Ratings on immigration were his best on any issue. He was up 2-1 on that issue, and now, according to a lot of polling, he's underwater. So he seems to have overreached. If you ask the median American voter, has gone from being like, yeah, I like the fact that he's sealing off the border, to no, I don't like the fact that he's defying court orders in this space.
But those are two separate issues, though, Jeff, because if you look at it, the border is one issue that everyone cares about, at least everyone except for members of the progressive left. And other than that, most general Americans agree that the border should not be porous.
Agree.
So on that, if you ask them, even today, if you ask Americans, is Trump getting it done at the border? I bet you those numbers would still be 60-40 in favor of Trump.
Which makes it interesting that when you get a court order situation, his popularity plummets because people do understand the difference. People aren't as dumb.
They do understand the difference.
Yes, they do. And they believe
Correct.
in court orders. And, I don't know how much, simpler it can be.
And I think 3 of the 4 of us agreed that this overreach is making him lose the median voter on this
I don't agree with
broad
that.
set of
No, I
issues.
don't agree with that because I think that
I do.
he's
I
not
agree with
losing
that.
much support.
do.
Brad, where's he losing support?
He's losing
Someone
support.
like Brad. Look
He's losing support among a lot of on the right because I'm firmly in the right.
I don't know anybody except for you.
I'm
You seem
firmly
to be
in the
the
right.
only one.
And as I look at it,
Seriously.
I want the Constitution to be upheld, and I want presidents, regardless of who they are, to obey court orders.
Would you like a poll question phrased perhaps just slightly different so it's more accurately representing the situation that we're in? Because I'm going to tell
course.
you, if you
course.
pose a little different, those numbers are going to be dramatically different.
And that's the point that I made a few moments ago.
Well, I just think it's hilarious that this is something. And, I can segue into this kid. This poor white kid down in Texas gets stabbed in the heart. And boy, the white attorney represented him one day. And then he got new attorneys and supporters. And by the way, one of the supporters, the activist, has a rap sheet longer than Abrego Garcia. But this is all of a sudden a racial thing. When a black kid comes into a tent and he stabs another boy in the heart brutally in front of other people, he admits that he did it, by the way. There's no gray area there. He even corrects the cop when the cop says, we have the alleged suspect. He actually says, nope, I'm not alleged. I did it. But you have people on your side that are taking up for the killer here. This is why I posed the question, Jeff, and I think it's legitimate. You can take Abrego Garcia out of it. You guys love George Floyd. You love Mike Brown.
Jussie Smollett.
All these guys.
I
Why
don't ever
is that?
remember standing up for one of them.
Yeah, I took you out of the equation because you're sane.
Well, no, but I mean,
wait, flag the tape on that.
I know, right?
Would you flag the tape?
Right?
What? I don't know the answer to that. I really don't. I don't get why you guys are so attracted to people who are thugs and criminals and rapists and gangbangers and assassins.
Well,
is there an explanation for that?
Is there an explanation to the fact that Trump was Trump, who has been credibly accused of sexual assault by a couple dozen women, appointed Bobby Kennedy Jr., who has been credibly accused of similar sexual misconduct, Pete Hegseth, who has been credibly accused of sexual misconduct, person after person, Matt Gaetz,
the
also
word credibly is being used very
credibly
generously
accused of
here.
sexual misconduct. Why is it that you love all these people?
Why is
what's
here's
the
the question.
difference? I mean,
Why is it when you say credibly, you're
we're
lying? And
defending
when I
just
say
random
credibly,
people, you guys want these people to be in charge of massive cabinet departments.
right. But why is it when you say credibly, when there's not credibly, but when we have actual evidence about this guy who's in El Salvador, that's not credible. It's only credible when Trump's involved. And you guys know that. It only applies to Trump because you hate him so much. Yeah.
No, I mean, a court, again, there was a court proceeding.
All right. Well,
that
let's see
said
how this all
Trump
turns
was.
out for your
mean-
party and see where the polling goes when you stand up for a gangbanger and a wife beater. But Jane, let's talk about the city of St. Louis and the new era. Did I hear last night that Kara appointed a communist to her staff? That's always a great start.
I don't know if he's a full-on communist, but he's definitely a defund the police socialist.
So why do you do that? Why is that one of your first steps?
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
I mean,
well,
this is someone who, she says she wants to hire 400 cops. Now, look, he is the liaison to the board. Maybe that's to deal with Megan and her group of, people. Maybe that's a strategy there to deal with the progressives.
Dan Gunther Smith. That's who
Yeah,
we're talking
Dan
about.
Gunther.
Dan Gunther.
So I don't know if he's a communist, but I do believe that he is he stood with Megan with the defund police signs. And, I think maybe he's there to deal with those progressives. I have no idea.
And of all the issues that face the city, isn't crime literally the issue that almost everyone can agree upon?
Yes.
The right, the left, everyone except for the progressives agree that crime is the greatest issue. And so why then, as you say, it's a new era in St. Louis with this new mayor, why would you go back to things that don't work like defund the police?
Well,
but I don't think she's said she's going back to that.
Yeah,
I think
voice
she's been
on
pretty
there.
clear in her campaign that one of the first things she wanted to do was hire more
400
police.
Right, but before
and
she's
focus
hired
on public safety.
But before she's hired more police, she's hired a defund the police advisor.
I mean,
not to
it's-
advise on that issue.
Yeah. I mean,
And-
he's
and
dealing with the board. And that's the only thing that I can sort of.
half the board was kind of in that camp.
Unfortunately.
What, like birds of a feather? Is that the idea?
Well, I mean, she's
I
got to
mean,
deal with the president of the board.
There might be legitimacy to that, but it just seems to send a strange message.
It does.
I agree, but I do like that the gates are down. I guess, is there a dispute about that, which mayor did it? And I also think
I'm just so glad they did it.
I
really am.
know. It's like
I'm taking full credit because I've been
you
complaining about
should.
it for
It was
so
for your
long.
birthday.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's and people are actually starting to complain about graffiti again. What a concept.
Yes.
So
broken windows.
Windows
yes.
matter. And there
So
are
does
just
the theory, the broken windows
there's
theory.
just people not down here. I mean, it's Friday. Now, granted today it's kind of cloudy, but I mean, when we moved to this studio, people were always downtown walking around. Nobody walks around downtown anymore, except Dennis Bogdanovic. He's the walker. I mean, he's the only guy that walks. And it's like, well, dude, have you ever seen another human being? No.
Look, I'm concerned because we can kind of fold this into some Cardinals discussion. Look, the Cardinals are not terrible right now, and they've got some offense that has been flashy, but there's not anyone going to the games
not at all.
And then somebody raised this point yesterday. I think it's a combination of issues, right? It's not just one thing. There's no doubt. But somebody even said to me, hey, one of the things that's kind of hard for the fans, and I agree with this, you don't know where these games are even on. So there's no consistency as to where you can find
that
the
is
games.
a major problem.
I think that hurts the fans.
But I
and their
also
interest.
think people go to the Blues. I mean, I think that's interesting.
I know, but right now the Cardinals games are about as popular as a James Carville kissing booth. I mean, nobody's going to that.
Nobody's going.
Nobody's going.
We've not
and part of
seen
the reason
this.
is crime.
We've not
in
seen
my
this
whole
since
life.
the 1970s.
You're going to use that line,
right?
aren't you? You're going to steal my line, aren't you?
Yeah,
That was pretty good.
But I mean, I think people want to say it's not crime. I do think it is a factor. But and here's the thing: like when they spent, I don't know how many millions, tens of millions, on redoing Wash Avenue.
Yeah.
And there was a time at night that you could walk down Wash
Oh, it
Avenue.
was great. It
was
felt like
great.
a real city.
It felt like a real city. And you had the lights and you had the bars and people sat outside and had drinks. I mean, I remember doing that in my lifetime. That used to be a red light district. Okay. That was the worst.
See, I remember it better for that reason in the 80s, but yes.
But I mean, we spent millions of dollars.
Yeah.
All of those condos built, all of that. Now we're just going to abandon Wash Ave and we're going to go to downtown. I mean, there has in my lifetime never been a comprehensive land use plan to say this is what we're going to focus on. And now it's just pick a building, any building that bugs people, and we're going to go get that redeveloped.
But Jeff, on a serious note, on that issue, on economic development, that's a big challenge. I don't care who the mayor is. That's a huge challenge for our city right now.
It's a huge challenge. And I think, we see Kara, one of the first things that she is talking about doing is, and it's an indirect thing as opposed to a lot of the appointments, but changing the leadership at the St. Louis Development Corporation has to be done through the board, right? Because the mayor just has one appointment, and she already signified that that's going to be a priority for her by putting her chief of staff as the chair of that SLDC board. So I thought that was
and
positive.
She actually has experience in that. Not much
got
other
Nancy
else
Hawes
in
real estate
government
development lawyer,
right?
For decades, right? So that's a good sign that someone with that kind of background is going to be her chief of staff, be able to focus on that and have actual subject matter expertise in that space. That's good.
What about CDA? They got to get rid of that guy at CDA.
So a second positive thing is that there's legislation at the state level from Representative David Castile from Jefferson County to create an entertainment district with beefed up security here downtown. It would put $2.5 million focused on downtown security. I think that would be a positive.
Yes,
Look,
yes.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Except
Did
it's
you know about
it's
that?
cop secondary, which is the same thing. I love him and I like the idea, but we've been using cops on secondary for everything because we don't have enough. So I don't know where they're going to get the security personnel. I agree with the concept.
But close your thoughts on that, Jeff. Was that it, or I didn't know if you had another thought?
Yeah, no, I was.
At least there's money behind it.
Yeah, there's money behind it. And look,
it.
like it's going to take a while to hire up 400 new cops.
Yes.
And so this could be a good kind of like stopgap solution.
At least for downtown.
Because people, we need to get more people coming to events, to concerts, to games, to festivals, to all kinds of things.
But here's, and I agree with you on all of that, right? But here's part of the challenge. Like, let's say we get things that are pretty safe downtown, and I hope that we will. There's been a lot of competition that has entered the game in the last 4 years. You got an entertainment district in Chesterfield that is kind of rocking right now. And
Steinberg wanted to create a whole third downtown in Chesterfield.
Well, he's going to, right?
He's
working on it now.
It's actually happening.
And then we got St. Charles that's doing this very same thing where the
Along
Noah's
the
Ark
river.
used to be.
Yep.
Where Noah's Ark used to be.
Yep.
So even if you solve some of the issues, and we all agreed that there's complications, there's nuance here. It's not just crime, right? But wow, people are given a lot more options, and they're going to forget a little bit about coming downtown.
Well, and you have to remember, like I said, when I worked downtown for 25 years, and every day at lunch, it's like, okay, where are we going to lunch? Now, if you and I say we're going to lunch down, where would we go?
I wouldn't know where to. I mean, I
There
guess
are
we'd
no-
go over to Wash Avenue. Sue, do you have an answer for
yeah,
that?
oh yeah, there are several restaurants on Washington Avenue that are good. Sentai, there are a bunch.
But,
Sugar Fire.
Yes,
but
I
if you
mean,
take
but
Wash Avenue
walking.
out of the mix, and you're over here by the law school. I mean, there's
You
everything
can go
around
to,
here.
You can go to the pancake. You can go
Chris's
to
docket.
That's pretty much it.
Go to the
though.
docket. Yeah, I mean, if you're at the courthouse, there's nowhere to walk
Right.
to go to lunch.
But Jane, to your point a moment ago, the drawing of crowds to me is part of the feeling, because feeling safe is subjective.
Yes.
It's not objective. It's an
Right.
emotional response. And so you resolve that issue, obviously, number one, objectively by fighting crime, but number two, creating an environment where more people show up, because when a lot of people are downtown,
It
you're
feels
going
safer.
to feel
Yes.
safer, right?
Yes.
And so you handle both the
People
objective
walking up and down the
and
garden.
the subjective.
Yeah, walking up and down Market. I mean, seeing that when it's a soccer game, or like the soccer games, there's a ton of people around, so you feel completely safe walking around. And
Brad, you are making so much damn sense today. I don't even know what I'm speechless.
yeah.
Well,
I'm
I do
not-
that every day.
I'm
Listen,
not
every
sure
day.
who
KMOX.
invited you to the panel this
Oh,
week.
but,
Brad. I have no
but
idea.
let's get back to more clown carring, though.
Well, hang on. We got to take a break. We
Okay.
can do more clown carring when we come back from the break. It's a Reardon Roundtable on a Friday.
The battle is on. This is the Reardon Roundtable. Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
on the roads, we actually look pretty good. If you're taking westbound 70 out of downtown, it looks great. Little bit slow, Highway A out through Wentzville. Eastbound, a little moderate volume at Forestell and also at Wentzville. Now, 64 westbound, most of the traffic is lined up right around Hampton, and that goes out through McCausland. Eastbound, some moderate volume at 270, and then westbound slows again. Highway N out through the 70 split. Southbound 270, moderate volume in pockets from Page, and that goes through 64. Manchester is really lined up, especially westbound at 141, and a little bit of volume southbound 55 headed for Bates. I'm Sue Thomas. That's traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
Whether you're shaping up a small yard or tackling serious acreage, Steel walk-behind, zero-turn, and stand-on mowers are built to get the job done. Shop online or at your local Steel dealer. Steel, let's go mow.
You might have heard me talk about Game Day Men's Health and the location out in Chesterfield at Highway 40 and Clarkson and Olive. That's the location that I visited. They do have a couple other places around the area, but I love Matt Lawrence and his team out there in Chesterfield at Game Day Men's Health. And guys, they're offering a free visit, your first visit, a free PSA and testosterone test. And it's going to take about an hour, quick and easy out. You'll get the results back very quickly, and then they'll sit down, they'll answer some questions. They'll leave you educated with a game plan to move forward with whatever your goals might be, whether you have brain fog, no energy when you get off work, loss of muscle mass, maybe there's some ED issues going on. They have unique treatments for all of this, and they can guide you through it with an exceptional staff and great service at Game Day Men's Health. So it's a free testosterone PSA test, Game Day Men's Health. 3 locations. They're in O'Fallon, Missouri, in Glen Carbon, Illinois, and then that location I mentioned in Chesterfield. GameDayMen'sHealth.com.
I don't know if you heard with them, these energy mandates. Luckily, this year they stopped the continuation of this government mandates, but the new refrigerants did not stop, so that is out. So be careful, buyer beware on what you're purchasing. If you're looking for a new system and just want a common sense approach to picking a system, i.e., are you going to save money? Is your energy bills going down? All the stuff that we've been hearing for about the last 25 years. Bottom line is, when it comes to the efficiencies, it's going to be your house. I only have 60 seconds to do this in, so if you want a common sense approach and you are looking at purchasing a system or getting prices on systems, please call me. It's one easy number, Missouri and Illinois. It's 314-293-2600. 314-293-2600, or on the internet is bartinman.com. That is Bart with a B, Inman with an I.com. God bless.
When you're approaching retirement, there are a lot of questions to answer. Do you have enough money to fund your income for life? How should you claim Social Security? And what's your plan for health care and long-term care? Hi, I'm Eric Robert, Director of Investments with the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel and host of On the Money Saturday mornings at 11 on 97.1 FM Talk. Don't leave your retirement to chance. It's crucial to understand and address relevant risks before you retire. Our team can help you get organized, guide you through critical retirement decisions, and create an investment portfolio designed around your needs. To schedule your free retirement plan consultation, go to clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com, or call us at 636-695-2650. That's clearpathinvesting.com or 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
Hi, this is Steve Butts with the Crawford Butts Insurance Agency. I know we're all experiencing sticker shock when you get your insurance premium. Now more than ever, you need an independent insurance agent to find the best value for your family's insurance needs. Crawford Butts, family owned and operated for more than 60 years. Please give us a call at 314-752-2500 or at crawfordbutts.com.
We, without hesitation, recommend that anybody work with ThrottleNet. The experience will be as good as it's been for us, for anybody, because you'll get a true partnership and you'll be able to rest easy that you're going to get the service that you need while they're also doing all those things that you don't want to have to think about, that you don't want to have to worry about. They're always doing that in the background for you.
Don't wait for your next IT crisis. If your business depends on technology, you need a partner that's got your back. Contact ThrottleNet.com to get a free IT evaluation and see how we can support your IT everything.
The Mark Cox Morning Show.
Monday, have you struggled to find a primary care physician? That problem may only get worse. We'll talk to Dr. Bill Hennessy about it at 7:35.
The Mark Cox Morning Show. Weekdays from 5 to 9. Right here on 97.1 FM Talk. Some ideas are better than others. We're hashing it out on the Reardon Roundtable.
All right, we're back here on a Friday afternoon in the studio for the first time in a few weeks doing the roundtable. Jane is here, Brad Young on the panel, former state senator Jeff Smith. Brad, let me do a bunch of topics here as we get toward the end. Let me start with the funding for Harvard and some of these other institutions of higher education. And, you know, Harvard has a $53 billion endowment. Some of these schools, their endowments are unbelievably huge. So why do they need federal tax dollar money? And why do they need tax breaks as well?
Well, those are a bunch of different issues, but let's look at Harvard right now. Harvard, by continuing to have an admissions policy that violates the Supreme Court order from Fair Admission Practices versus Harvard, Students for Fair Admissions versus Harvard from 2023, which specifically said that their admission practices violated the Constitution by giving preferences and by demoting individuals from the admissions process because of the racial heritage. That violates the Constitution. And so today, or not today, but this week, the Trump administration says to Harvard, we're going to re-examine your 501c3 status. Now, that's been done before. 1983, Bob Jones University had their IRS 501c3 removed because they violated orders regarding discriminatory admissions practices. Now, if it's shown that Harvard is still using those same admission practices, then what's the difference between that and Harvard? Bob Jones? Just like Bob Jones lost it, so should Harvard.
Well, and it's interesting because they were also told, quit being anti-Semitic.
Correct.
And Harvard just doesn't want to deal with that.
No, they
don't.
And
I'm like, you know what? Pull it. One school needs to be pulled. You do not get to be anti-Semitic.
No,
that's
not
it.
At all. That is
and you
wrong.
Don't get federal funding while you do it.
And we can all agree that that's wrong, and it also violates the law.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty. Columbia should be shut down.
I'm fine with whatever they do as long as I'm not sending
higher
them money.
ed. If higher ed, and there's been a degradation of higher ed for a very long time, and it's all laying bare now, and with the Palestinian and anti-Semitic crap. And I mean, the higher ed institutions, I don't think they understand that their brand, they didn't get the memo that
I don't think they understand it either.
The brand is really bad. Okay. Higher ed, people are going to be fleeing higher ed if they don't get it together.
Smith, you have a different perspective on this or not?
I think my perspective is a little more nuanced. I think Brad did a good job of laying out the legal history on the affirmative action issue in admissions.
A court order being violated.
And a court order. Yeah. So I think we're being
That's a problem.
consistent.
Yeah.
We're being consistent.
It's a
You know,
major
Jane and I
problem.
are, and Brad as well, in wanting court orders to be followed, and admissions policies do have to align with Supreme Court rulings. On the other hand, I think Trump overreached, as is often the case, by wanting to approve the curriculum in different departments. I mean, that's just a huge overreach and should not be in the purview of the federal government. If people want to send their kids to a university, then they're saying, hey, like, I'm fine with what they're teaching there. That should be up to.
Except you're getting federal money, Jeff.
Right. And so
I mean,
look,
so-
we already have a model for this.
And they're allowed to look at it anyway.
But we already
the
have a
feds are
model
allowed
for
to
this,
look at
guys.
it.
Don't forget, Hillsdale College accepts $0. Now, you may snicker at Hillsdale College because it's obviously a very conservative college, but the point is they don't receive any federal money, so they can do whatever the heck they want to do. And why can't Harvard have that same model?
How much? I mean, I heard the amount. It was an insane amount of money that they're getting from the feds.
Yes.
And I'm like, I mean, you want to trifle with them, but I sort of feel like, look, you that ship sailed when you took federal dollars.
Yep. If
They
you
get to
want
look at your curriculum. They get to look at everything.
If you want
They
the
can
bull, you
audit.
get the horns. Okay.
Yeah,
and if you want the money, you get the horns.
What's interesting is that, because a lot of people have the legitimate question of why do you have that big of an endowment if you're not going to use it, right? So the Wall Street Journal had a piece yesterday, I think, or the day before, and the headline was, is Harvard's $53 billion endowment big enough to offset federal funding cuts? And it is a little bit more nuanced than people probably think when it comes to the way that they use the money. But again, this is the wealthiest university on the planet.
Yes, easily.
Right?
Well, I mean, is Wash U's endowment about that big?
No, Wash U's endowment's, I think,
half,
16.
I think.
Like
I thought it was.
16 or
I thought it was
17
more.
billion.
I thought I heard 20, but
It's about a third of what Harvard's is.
Somewhere
But,
in there.
your point's well taken. And people have said before, looking at the structure of Harvard, it's basically a holding company with a very small side business in education.
But if you
Right.
have what they say is
that is spot on.
Most universities, this is what the Wall Street Journal said. They make 5% of their endowment's market value available for operations. So Harvard distributed 5% of its endowments for operations last year. But let's look at the stock market, maybe not the past 3 months, but if you're invested properly, you're getting a pretty good return on $53 billion.
Correct.
Right. And you're going to be able to have that endowment grow and then maybe offer 10 or 20% from the endowment to operating expenses. I don't know. I think some of this needs to be, the Band-Aid needs to be ripped off, and we need to look at these things, especially when it comes to the tax benefits. But I don't know how it's going to end up because the lawyers are going to win. You and Jane win on all these things, right, Jeff?
And
The
I'm
lawyers end
good
up
with
being the
that.
victims.
Jane, are
It's
you
our
good with that?
game. Oh,
Jane,
yeah,
I'm great
yeah,
with that.
Yeah.
Oh,
just
sure.
Call
Absolutely.
me and Brad.
Jane, why were you not on the Blue
Send me a check.
Origin flight this week with Gayle King and Katy Perry? I'm
I
very
mean,
curious
okay,
about that.
I've been reading. I mean, I've been seeing things about this, and they were like groping the ground. What happened?
Yeah.
Okay, one thing you need to know is Gayle King feels very, very passionately that her ride, which she says it's disrespectful to call it a ride, it was a mission. It's the same as Alan Shepard, Jane. She actually said that to a certain extent. It's
No.
and then
She
Yeah.
said that?
Well, in
It's
so many
nothing
words.
like Alan
No, she
Shepard.
bitched about the fact that people were minimizing it, being called a ride. And she says, this is the same route that Alan Shepard took. But you tell me what she's saying there.
Oh,
she's an idiot.
goodness.
I
Okay,
mean,
so
she's just an
but
idiot.
what I want to know is
I
how
would
did
say it's
Katy
closer
Perry
to
feel?
what I did with my kids at Universal over spring break than it is to what
Thank
Alan
you.
Shepard did.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'd
Thank
like
you,
to know.
Jeff
What,
Smith.
I would like to know what Katy Perry thinks. Can we get to
Yeah,
the
we got the
important
metaphors
part?
rocking today, don't we?
Well, Katy Perry has kind of been, and look, Jane, you
She's
know that I
funny.
love Katy Perry, right? I
Yes.
do. And let's face it, she sang the song California Girl. So it's not exactly, she's a pop star. And, but apparently, well, wait, now there's something about Wendy's. She gets off this thing and she kisses the ground and acts like it's, I get
Like
it
she
would
was
be
in
fun.
danger.
Well, no, she acts like it's some big message to the rest of the planet that she's now an astronaut. It's
Oh.
just weird the way that they're reacting. Maybe something happens when you go into space,
Who,
to your
who
brain.
chartered this flight or whatever it was.
Well, they did.
Bezos
right.
paid for it because his girlfriend was on it.
Oh,
That's 100% accurate.
There you go.
It was that to like beat out like Elon, or what is that about?
What's the deal with
I don't
hey,
know.
Brad? Do you know anything
Yes.
about this Wendy's thing? Do you, Sue?
Yeah, Wendy's was throwing shade, as the kids say, at old
So it
Katy
says,
Perry.
okay, Shortly after Blue Origin's first all-female crew flew to the edge of space and back Monday, the fast food chain took a series of jabs at the Women's World singer. 40, can we send her back? The official Wendy's account wrote. Oh, that's pretty
Were
good.
they hacked? That is really...
Now they say that the source close to the situation tells People that the company was out of line and that Perry deserves an apology. While that is funny, I think that's
that was probably not a good business
decision. I guarantee you the CFO didn't approve of that.
And then they had a picture that Kesha
It's pretty
tweeted
funny,
out
though.
a selfie of herself drinking from a Wendy's cup to support him. It turned into a
Oh,
thing.
there are some other artists that are
Ouch.
very subtly taking digs, right?
Uh-huh.
And I guess Kesha would be one of them.
Mhm.
What do we have here for one more topic? Let's talk about the Blues. We talked about the Cardinals. Let's talk about the Blues as they head into the postseason against Winnipeg. I think some of us were hoping that they'd end up with the Golden Knights, but look, you got to win a series and win another series and then win one more to get
Just
back
take
to the
one at
Stanley
a
Cup.
time.
Right, exactly. But look, I think we can all admit, and I don't even know what happened last night. Did they win last night? Anybody know?
I
Did they play
stopped
last
paying
night?
attention.
Okay.
I'm just ready for playoffs.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's
Let's just
tomorrow. I
get
think
to
it's a
it.
4:30
I have my
start time.
inflatable Stanley Cup at the ready.
Unfortunately for fans
Love
here,
that.
when they get back to the home games at Enterprise, they're going to be pretty late starts, like maybe even after 8:30.
You
because
know
they're trying to
why?
satisfy
We
the
are
West
just
Coast.
so discriminated against.
I
I'm
was
so sick
very
of that.
nervous when Jane started that sentence talking about her inflatable.
Yeah. Oh wow. Wow. Yeah, you can tell
Wow.
you in this crowd are single.
Well, all I know is I've
Ouch.
got Gloria ready to go.
I mean,
I've got the song
Yeah.
Gloria. I haven't
I got
heard
blue
it.
face paint.
I haven't heard it in 6 years. I'm
Yep.
ready to rock with
and
Gloria.
I have blues tattoos.
It would just be fun if they can get out of this first series, and it's not unheard of that an 8 takes out a 1. I think it happens
Right.
maybe more often in the
Yes.
NHL than
Yes.
other sports,
It does.
right?
And this
It
is when
does.
Jordan Biddington becomes the man,
Well,
and
right.
the myth, and the legend.
Because if you do have a hot goalie and they have a lot of energy on this team right now, and I think there's certainly a shot, but it's not going to be easy against the Jets. All right, Brad
Neither
Young,
was
thanks for
19.
coming in and doing the roundtable. Brad's going to actually hang out a little bit and join us in the 5 o'clock hour as well. We have John O'Leary on the show tonight, who has an amazing story, and his movie that's based on his life, which stars William H. Macy, Joe Courtney, John Corbett. William H. Macy plays Jack Buck, I think.
He does.
In that,
That's
yeah.
correct.
And the movie's going to come out later this year. John's going to join us in the 5 o'clock hour. Brad Young will join us in the 5 o'clock hour. In the next hour, Jane's going to hang out. We have entertainment stuff with Paul Hall and Cusumano as well. Jeff Smith, great to see you.
Good to
Thank
see
you
you,
for
buddy.
battling on the roundtable
Have
this
a good
afternoon.
Easter.
That was fun. You have a great Easter as well. Jane's going to hang out. Brad, good to see you. We're coming back
Pleasure as always.
with another hour after Fox News. Sue's News for a Friday on 97.1 FM Talk.
Catch anything you missed today by getting the show podcast at 971talk.com. Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
I just posted on X a photo of this. There's an accident eastbound 270 on the ramp to New Halls Ferry, and they've got that ramp blocked. It looks to me like a vehicle ran off the roadway. I can't tell whether it ran off the ramp or the approach to it, but there's a vehicle off the roadway. They've got a tow truck and emergency vehicles on the scene, and that ramp is closed. Now, that's the exception. Mostly we don't have trouble right now. If you are westbound on 70, it looks fine out of downtown. A little slow Highway A through Wentzville. Some moderate volume eastbound at Forestell and at Wentzville. And looks like westbound 6440, not easy for me to say. A little slow approaching Hampton out through McCausland. Westbound Manchester jams as you head toward 141. And southbound 55, a little slow there at Bates, but it's really jammed. We've got an accident reported south of 141 that has created a jam behind it. Now, if you are headed into Illinois, we look fine. But if you're headed in from Illinois, there is heavy traffic on the Poplar Street Bridge. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
Let's talk about Thomas Helbig and the team from the Retirement Advisor Group. They've been around here in St. Louis since 1987, helping folks maybe like you have enough money to retire on. And they offer services in several different areas. One is preparing for retirement by putting all of those assets to work, and they have different strategies than maybe you're used to. They want to make sure they protect the assets. They call that preserve, protect the assets that help you live into retirement, and the one that you've always imagined, which, let's face it, a little more challenging with inflation. And then the giving portion in what they do is important too, because if you're someone who wants to give to causes in retirement or after you leave the planet, IRA planning and legacy planning is something they specialize in as well. They'd love to see you in the office one-on-one. We have another seminar that will come up a little later in May. In the meantime, you head right in, 314-993-9494 to set up an appointment, or online, retirementkey.com for Thomas Helbig and the Retirement Advisory Group.
It's time to get outside and enjoy the great outdoors. Mark Cox here from my friends at Chesterfield Fence and Deck, where they've got a great deal for you right now. Mention Mark when you call them, and you're going to get 20% off your next outdoor project. And the options are just about limitless. They will help you design your project if you already know what you want in your backyard, or they'll bring a digital photo gallery and let you see maybe what your neighbors have been doing. And then you can go in and you can pick the project that works best for you. Maybe it's a new sunroom. Maybe it is a pergola, a patio, the retaining walls. The list is long. You're going to love working with my friends at Chesterfield Fence and Deck. They are A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau. They have financing options available with up to 60 months at zero interest. And right now, remember, you get that 20% off when you reach out and tell them Mark Cox sent you. All you have to do is go online today to chesterfieldfence.com.
Attention. Have you racked up $10,000 or more in credit card debt? Are you barely getting by making minimum payments? With credit card debt reaching all-time highs, National Debt Relief is notifying consumers about significant debt relief options currently being made available to help those with overwhelming credit card debt. These options may reduce a large portion of credit card debt for those who qualify. You don't need to declare bankruptcy or take out a consolidation loan, and you may only have to pay back a fraction of what you owe, even if you have bad credit. National Debt Relief has already reduced the credit card debt for more than 550,000 consumers. So don't wait. If you owe $10,000, $20,000, or even $100,000 in credit card debt, you can now take advantage of this financial debt relief as the cost of living continues to skyrocket. To check what debt reduction you may qualify for, call 800-355-8282. That's 800-355-8282. Again, that's 800-355-8282.
Are you tired of feeling sick and tired? I'm Dr. Nick Barnes of Health from Within Family Chiropractic. Our simple 5-step approach aligns your health naturally. We correct spinal abnormalities to maximize nerve supply, focus on pure and simple nutrition, exercise and oxygen, mindset, and minimizing toxins in your body. Transform your health today with Health from Within, conveniently located on Manchester in Rock Hill, or online at healthfromwithinstl.com.
KFTK FM Florissant, an Odyssey station.
Tragedy in Tallahassee. I'm John Saucier, Fox News. Florida State University continuing to mourn yesterday's deadly shooting. Fox's Madison Scarpino is there with the latest.
Authorities confirmed that the 2 people who died are not students, and we did get an update from the doctors taking care of the 6 people injured. At the beginning of the update, the FSU president did say that students were shot, but the good news is everyone injured is expected to survive.
Faced injuries that involve the torso and extremities, some of which require surgery, some of which can be managed without surgery.
There's a quickly growing makeshift memorial here on campus. People have been coming by all last night and this morning and through the afternoon, laying down flowers and comforting their fellow FSU students who are just trying to process yesterday's horrifying shooting.
The accused shooter is 20-year-old Phoenix Eigner, a student at FSU and son of a sheriff's deputy. He was shot by police, is recovering in the hospital. Investigators have not yet determined a motive. President Trump going after Democrats and the media for defending Kilmar Abrego Garcia, an illegal immigrant the Supreme Court unanimously said was wrongly deported. The president says they're defending a man accused of being a gang member and a wife beater.
We got a little biography of him. Not a very innocent guy.
Abrego Garcia has been accused in federal court of being a member of the MS-13 gang. His lawyers say the allegation is false. His wife has also defended him despite the past alleged abuse. And Dr. Mehmet Oz, now head of the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, he was sworn in this afternoon by Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Dr. Oz says no American will be left behind by his work.
Every great society, everyone, has an opportunity to take care of its most vulnerable and treasures that opportunity. And we're a great people, so we will do the same.
Democrats have raised concern the Trump administration may be hostile to established medical science. America's listening to Fox News.
It's tax season, and at LifeLock, we know you're tired of numbers. But this one you need to hear. $16.5 billion. That's how much money in refunds the IRS flagged for possible identity fraud last year. Now, here's a good number. $100 million. That's how many data points LifeLock monitors every second. If your identity is stolen, we'll fix it guaranteed. Oh, one last number. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS. Visit LifeLock.com for the threats you can't control. Terms apply.
You ever try fixing your car and realize you're missing that one part? Yeah, been there. That's why eBay's my go-to. They've got millions of parts, guaranteed to fit. I'm talking brake pads for when yours have seen one too many miles of stop and go. Oil filters, because you don't mess around with your engine care. Even got this cold air intake on my watch list. I might just go for it. To keep the ride cool and your DIY streak hot. Find all the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. eBay. Things people love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation. Weather.
Our weather is quiet right now, but a very active stretch coming up right through Easter Sunday. This evening, temperatures in the 70s. It's windy. It's mild all night long. Partly cloudy skies, the low 66. Friday, partly sunny, windy, and warm. Be a couple of showers, couple of thunderstorms around the focus late in the day. So anticipating a lot of dry time, 83. Friday night, rain and thunderstorms around. Some could be strong to severe. This is 97.1 FM Talk. Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
I'm Chad Robinson with Your Money Now. President Donald Trump will reportedly walk away from trying to broker a Russia-Ukraine peace deal within a matter of days unless there are clear signs that a deal can be reached. That sentiment coming from Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who made the comments in Paris after meeting with European and Ukrainian leaders, according to CNBC. Netflix has posted a major earnings beat as revenue grew by 13% during the first quarter of 2025. The report marks the first time the streaming giant didn't disclose quarterly subscriber data. Netflix reported revenue of just over $10.5 billion for the first quarter. The New Jersey AG is suing Discord, alleging the company misled consumers about child safety features on the gaming-centric social messaging app. The lawsuit alleges Discord has a strategy of employing difficult-to-navigate safety settings to lull parents and children into a sense of safety. That's Your Money Now.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down and get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.
This hour of the Mark Reardon Show is sponsored by Gamma Tree Experts. Your trees deserve the best care. Call Gamma Tree Experts.
We have a Friday edition of Sue's News forthcoming here in just a couple of minutes. Paul Hall on entertainment recommendations as we take you into the weekend. And then Mr. Cusumano later this hour, we'll talk Blues hockey, some Cardinals baseball. And then let me segue into a discussion about the Missouri Athletic Club, because City faces off against Vancouver tomorrow night at Energizer Park. Last week on Sunday, we had like this convergence of 3 different games at the same time. Just remember, if you're an MAC member, you can always go down to the downtown clubhouse before the match. I can't call it a game. I have to call it a match, right? There's a game day menu that they always have at the Jack Buck Grill. Probably best to make reservations. The other thing that's going on here very, very quickly, I feel like I'm saving money this year, not wagering that much on the Kentucky Derby because I will be in Greece. But if you're here, Derby Day is coming up in just a couple of Saturdays, a week from, Well, it'll be 2 weeks from tomorrow. The West Clubhouse has a big Kentucky Derby party. Got to make reservations for that, but you can do that right now on the MAC app. And if you want to find out more about the Missouri Athletic Club, just go to mac-stl.org.
Want to see Herman's Hermits starring Peter Noon and the Lovin' Spoonful for free? Go to 971talk.com/contests and register. You could win a pair of tickets to the show as easy as that. October 25th at the Family Arena. Enter at 971talk.com/contests.
All right, I'm just going to admit that I was in a little bit of a Bee Gees mood today.
Love it.
We got this song, Tragedy. We have Sue's News coming up here in just a couple of minutes. Also, as I mentioned, Paul Hall and entertainment. I've really gotten into, and I know, Jane, you have watched at least a couple episodes of the John Hamm show on Apple TV Plus, which is called Your Friends and Neighbors. I'm quite a fan of it so far. I will say this, though. I've watched a few shows on Max, on Apple TV Plus, on all the formats where I've really liked the first 3 episodes, and then it falls apart.
So that's depressing.
Well,
this may
it does
not.
happen.
I don't
but
think it will.
I think it's pretty strong, and we'll talk with Paul about that because I think he's seen a few more episodes than you and I. We have Cusumano coming up as well. In the next hour, John O'Leary, who is awesome, local story. He, of course, set himself on fire, literally almost killed himself. His story, though, has been really, really amazing, inspirational, and Jack Buck played a big role in his recovery. The legendary Cardinals announcer, William H. Macy is playing Jack Buck in the movie. John Corbett is one of the other actors, and Joel Courtney as well. I like John Corbett. So John's coming up the next hour. We have Brad Young, who's going to swing in for a second segment because he was on the roundtable. Jane, you sent me something. I don't even know where this is, but there's some sign wars going on between some fast food restaurants like McDonald's and is it Dairy Queen or Wendy's?
Dairy Queen.
And we don't know. Do we know where this is?
No.
Because
I don't.
You have a YouTube video here and like a news it's news
hilarious.
feed, but it says Missouri, but I don't see anything related to Missouri. It looks like the gas cost $4.32 in whatever
So
city
it was
this
probably
is.
a bit ago.
Maybe it was.
That's what I'm thinking.
Oh, you know what?
That's
Yeah,
the
you know
only
what?
way.
Look, that's what it says. It says 2 years ago. See, this happens every once in a while. So we've had it happen in the last couple of weeks.
We have.
Something sort of repopulates. I did this like 2 or 3 weeks ago. I tweeted something out, and then I immediately realized that it was something that was older. So I, untweeted it, whatever you would say.
Deleted.
But let me say something about gas prices real quick, because I traveled to the great state of Illinois last weekend, right?
I'll tell you what. You have to plan so that you don't have to buy gas in Illinois.
You do.
Yes.
Yes.
And here's my point. So I didn't plan, and I'm starting to come back on Sunday, and I'd filled up here before we left, but I still had gas, one tank, still some left over. But then I stop at a station. Now, look, I'm going to admit something here. I have to put premium in my car, right? So if you put premium in your car, you might not be the best person to complain about gas prices, right?
Yes, that is true.
So I'm going to stipulate that.
Okay, that's fair.
But I'm just saying, I'm paying, it's jarring when I'm paying $1 more per gallon. $1, if
Just
not more,
across the river.
just across the
Right.
river
Yep.
at 2 different gas stations. Now,
Is
mind
it
you,
well, our gas tax is like the lowest in the country.
well, that's
It's
part of
really
it.
low.
Now, these were also places, as we know, if they're right off the highway, they're going to get you. But where I'm paying $3.40, $3.44, I was paying $4.69.
Oh, that's a lot.
for premium. Yeah, I thought so too.
I wonder how many Illinois residents come over here
Oh, all
just
of
to
them.
get gas.
Oh, I'm
All
sure
of them
they
that
do.
work here do.
And just like all the Missourians go over to Illinois, is it the other way around? No, they come to Missouri to get our cigarettes too, because we have the lowest cigarette
Well, and they
tax.
also make sure that their cars are licensed in Illinois. They flip it around because
Yep.
then they don't have to pay our property taxes, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it's
So,
We're
personal
working the
property taxes.
system, people.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, somebody's got to work
Yep.
it.
But that was just kind of jarring because I didn't expect there to be that much of a difference. But God bless you, Illinois. That's what happens. All right, you ready for Sue's News on a Friday?
These allegations are deeply concerning.
Does the president have any comment?
We're not going to comment. It's not clear messaging. No.
And now, Sue's News. Brought to you by Sue.
Hey, and thank you to Fred, our Hall of Famer.
Yay.
Who let me know that today
Hello,
is
Fred Bottenheimer
Thank
over there,
you.
ladies and gentlemen.
Oh my gosh. Yesterday, did you see what Kenny Wallace put up on the X, formerly Twitter, that he's talking to his mother? Oh my, she could not be cuter.
We need to
Okay,
get him
I'm
on.
it.
You have got to watch it. She is adorable.
I will say this, and I don't know if he's received it yet. I believe that it is in the United States Postal Service. His Sue's News shirt is on the way. It was a little delayed. I meant to send it to him like 2 weeks ago when you came out with them, but I put my wife in charge, and I think he's going to get a shirt. And I would expect that Kenny will put that thing on and take a picture and throw it up on Twitter right away. So we'll know.
So that would be very sweet. Okay, well, it's Superman Day. Happy Superman Day. Today's Superman is 87. The comic debuted on this day in history in 1938. And you know what? They've got James Gunn. There's a new Superman movie coming out on July 11th. So they're going to do it all over again.
I'm glad that you mentioned that James Gunn is a part of this, because he has been tweeting about Superman all day because it's Superman Day. And if you don't follow James, who is from St. Louis, he's a great follow on the X, formerly Twitter. He's got a bunch of the artwork up from Superman. He talks about some of the casting and the casting decisions. He's very engaged in what he does in his movie making, and it's interesting. The one thing that I will say, because I've met James before, and we all kind of remember people from yesteryear. He's got like a white beard now, and he looks like his age. I guess he's old like the rest of us, but I never envisioned him like that.
Yeah, I get that.
But I'm excited, and I'm not even a big Superman guy, but I'm a big James Gunn fan. That's what I'll say.
I remember buying a People magazine, possibly the first one I ever did, when Christopher Reeve was on the cover, because he was Superman. I was in love with him.
That's right.
Did you ever watch the Christopher Reeve documentary?
No, I need to do
it's
that.
Good.
Wonderful.
It's really good.
All right.
It's a nice tribute.
On this day in history, 102 years ago, in 1923, the first game was played at Yankee Stadium, and the Yankees beat the Red Sox 4-1. But here's why I bring it up. Babe Ruth, of course, hit the stadium's first home run. 2 men were arrested for scalping. Whoa. One tried to sell his $1.10 ticket for $1.25.
Oh, the scandal.
The scandal.
Wow.
The horror and the scandal.
That's hilarious.
That just made me laugh. The other one wanted $1.50, so he's just completely off the rails. And 91 years ago, in 1934, is when the first laundromat opened. And it opened in Fort Worth, Texas, randomly.
Brilliant.
I have no idea why.
Brilliant.
And then 59 years ago today, we have the music, because anything that mentions Julie Andrews, I love it. And this was Sound of Music. It's when it won Best Picture.
Hills are alive with the sound of music.
Fred, where do you stand on the Sound of Music, Fred? What's your position on the Sound of Music?
I could take it or leave it.
Yeah, I could leave it.
I can't even.
I'll tell
This
you,
is blasphemy.
I made a decision. I can leave it.
Blasphemy.
You will be struck.
Yes, you will.
Don't you think this is a divide of the genders a little bit? I mean, if we're being honest.
You know what?
No,
I got to say this. There's been a book about the Sound of Music, a beautiful table, coffee table book that's been out in the lobby for like anyone to take for like a year.
Wait, I didn't know that.
Didn't even well, now we're like, hey,
Okay.
is that up for grabs?
Jane and I'm going to run out there and split it.
You mean it's like in our lobby right now?
It's somewhere out
Really?
there.
Okay.
The fact that you know that is very impressive.
It is impressive. But it won Best Picture in 1966. Now, listen, the last history of the Louis Who was the history of the Skouras brothers, who were from Greece, stayed in St. Louis, and they bought theaters and became film and producing magnates. And they had something to do with this. One of the Skouras brothers actually saw the play, loved it, and got the movie made.
Oh, that's cool.
She can sing like no other.
I know I will hear.
I mean, I love
I'm
Mary
gonna watch
Poppins
it tonight,
too.
Sue.
Mary Poppins. How do you feel about Mary Poppins? Are you going to dog that too?
Yeah, please.
I like Mary Poppins better than Sound of Music.
I can't even speak.
You can't even say supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
You couldn't right there. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Even though the sound of it is something quite atrocious. See, I can do that.
Precocious.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I messed up the word.
Well,
Sorry.
I think possibly both
Different
ways.
verses.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
different verses.
Okay, thank you, Sue.
57% of adults wish they could get in on an Easter egg hunt. You know what? I might be one of those. I hate to say that out loud, but it would be kind of fun.
Oh,
Now,
no way. I think it's awesome.
Thank you, Jay.
Candy, money. I mean,
Yeah, no kidding. Sign me up.
Yeah. I mean, come on now. We could,
hide it and you find stuff. Who doesn't love it?
I think we should put teenagers in there and then knock them over.
Okay.
Ooh,
Well,
Wouldn't that be fun?
Yes.
I love that idea.
We're going to do that
Sue,
next year.
Yes.
Remind us of the doggy Easter egg hunt.
Thank you for that, Fred. There is one tomorrow. It's in Ladue at the Treats Unleashed. And there's a dog Easter egg hunt. I've taken my pups before, but it's a fundraiser for St. Louis English Bulldog Rescue. It is a hoot. Any dog of any breed can do it. We hide the eggs, and they all have treats in them, and they go out and get it. It's really adorable.
Can I tell you something to bring the mood down? Just because you know him and you know the dog. My friend Rick in Las Vegas, his bulldog Samson is going to have to be put to sleep today. He's been having a lot of problems, and he was at the vet emergency visit a couple of weeks ago, and they had to take him again this morning, and it was not good news. He's 8. That's on the upper end of a 7, I think.
I'm
upper end
so
of a
sorry
bulldog,
to
right?
hear
Yeah,
that.
not and he just lost a French bulldog too, so not
Yeah,
you know
I'm
how
so
tough that is,
sorry.
especially
it's
losing
the
back to back.
I don't even know what to say. That's awful. But thanks for bringing that up, Fred. It is tomorrow. There's a 9:30 and but you can go online and find out.
Do we
about
think
it.
the rain is going to be?
It's rain or shine, Mark.
Okay,
So
all right.
if somebody would show up, I'd appreciate it because I have to volunteer the whole day.
Oh God.
I just got a text last night from the Imperial Animal Hospital wishing Luna a happy welcome to your senior year's birthday text.
I don't know if I love
And
that.
I
but-
know. And then I guess she turned 9.
Is she on Medicare now?
No, but she should be because they gave
Right.
me a list of all the tests that she should have at this age. It's like
Good
stuff I wouldn't
Lord.
even do for myself.
Right.
Right?
It's crazy.
My girl
Yeah.
is 15.
Wow,
See,
that's
now,
great.
that's great.
And
Oh,
she is
sorry,
crowd didn't
jumping
like
on the
that.
couch. She's spry. It's amazing. She's 13 pounds.
What the little ones
there
do
you go.
tend to.
Yeah.
Egg hunts are only our second favorite Easter tradition. Spending time with family is number 1. Isn't that sweet? Easter brunch or Easter dinner is third, and 53% of Americans will also dye Easter eggs. Did you do that, Mark? You're the youngster father.
We don't do it anymore. We do the cheap, the plastic ones.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Oh, though Alexa might still do some this weekend. We'll have to see.
It's kind of fun.
They're so damn expensive. You can't afford them though.
Well,
right?
there is
Biden
that.
left
Wait a
us with
Are
expensive
you
eggs.
Governor Hochul?
Yeah, right.
Right.
I do have a question though.
Yes.
Maybe I ask this every year, but where does the room stand on hams?
Nope.
Okay, I am anti-ham.
Totally
You're
with you.
anti-ham?
Yeah, I don't.
There's
know.
2 of us who are
I like honey
anti-ham.
baked ham. That's
yeah.
the only ham I'll eat.
Very pro ham.
Yeah.
You are.
Oh yeah.
Well, this is like
Just
the
put
country.
salt in
Yeah,
my
it
veins.
is.
It's split. It's divided like the country.
It's divided
Half
like the country.
pro-
Well, what do you have?
Well, I certainly don't have ham.
What do you
Anything,
have?
anything
but ham.
or turkey, or sometimes you can have just a nice rib roast.
Okay.
Mhm.
I mean,
You
I'm
know,
pro meat.
Jan,
Yeah,
I will
I'm
tell you
okay.
this: we have not made a decision. It's just Becky and me and Alexa and her aunt. My son's in town, but he'll be with his mom on Saturday. So Sunday. We're not really making. It's not that big of a deal, I guess, for the meal. And
My
none of us
sister
like
does
ham.
a brunch. And
Oh,
it is,
now I will eat a brunch.
brunch.
Yes.
Well, see, that
is-
sounds
but
great.
there's
Yes.
ham involved.
What time and
Eh.
address?
It's in Cuba, Missouri. Yeah, it's
Oh.
like a bit of
Oh.
a drive.
Are you going there?
Yeah.
We're going to Grafton to a brunch thing tomorrow.
I love
Or,
brunch.
I'm sorry,
is the
Sunday.
best. Brunch
Yeah,
is the best. for
Totally
real.
agree. Easter Sunday is the most popular church day of the year. If you thought Christmas Eve was it, nope, it's Easter. And then it's followed by Mother's Day, just making mom happy by going to church.
I didn't know that.
Easter greeting cards are a big deal. And if you couldn't find one you liked, that's on you because Hallmark has 273 different Easter cards this year. Isn't that nuts? I did not know that was such a big deal.
273.
Yes.
I'm not spending
let me
my
ask this
$5
question.
for an
Right.
Easter card.
I was going to say, Jane,
No way.
how many of them are priced under $5? Probably 2.
I
You're-
like to
you're
go to the
probably right.
dollar. Don't they have like the
Yeah.
dollar card? That's about my
I think
speed.
they're like 2 for $1.
Oh,
okay,
Well,
Fred.
you follow
That's-
Fred if you want
yeah,
that.
Yeah,
That's
that's
where I
right.
want. That's what I
We
want.
will spend $24 billion on Easter this year. And when you factor in everything like eggs, candy, gifts, clothes, the average spent is $189. Maybe if there's food, maybe if you're going out somewhere. Otherwise, that seems really high.
Jane, how much do you spend on
Candy.
Yeah.
Yeah, Easter is bad because I really like it. The peeps, the jelly beans, the
Man, I
suckers.
saw a display of Peeps at Walmart that was
All
just
different flavors.
incredible.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, every
See?
flavor.
And
was
I've
there.
tasted them almost. I think I've tasted almost all of them. The chocolate pudding, thumbs up.
Oh, that was your favorite.
It was one
that?
of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there was a guy on the East Coast, a grandpa, who came up with the idea for Easter of using Peeps as a hot dog bun. So they were selling that at their store, a hot dog on a Peeps. Please, thank you.
I think even Jane would.
That's a no.
Yeah, thank you. Thank
It would
you.
just
Even
melt.
I. Yeah, and
Yes.
even I just like that's a bridge too far.
It just sounds disgusting
The
to me.
Peeps
It's called
milk, I don't
Lexi's
do that.
Road Dogs. If you are interested in
Ew.
that sort of thing, Road seems to be perfect there.
Roadkill.
Dolly Parton is announced. She's announced that she's releasing a new book called "Star of the Show: My Life on Stage." That's sure to look good on your coffee table if you want to see that. Fred, would you buy that? It's not your thing.
No.
The book will feature personal stories from Dolly, as well as 350 color photos, an 8-page gatefold listing her lifetime performances. It will come out on November 11th.
Look, maybe this is in the works as well, but somebody needs
Dolly
to
the
do a
movie.
documentary on
Yes.
that. Well,
Yes.
like a documentary.
You're
She's got
right.
so
She's
much
prolific.
in her story.
Songwriting.
You're right, and they could footage. They would have
Oh, yeah.
so much.
Oh,
I'm
I would
guessing
watch that
someone's
in a
working on
heartbeat. Okay,
that.
Netflix, get on that.
I get blown away when I think of people like big name stars that have written songs for other people that
Carole
are huge.
King.
Yeah,
And it's like,
Carole King.
wow, how could you give that song up?
I know.
I mean, did you ever see Beautiful?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I had no idea all the songs that she had written when
It's
she
pretty
was
amazing.
young. And she
Oh,
was
Carole King?
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I saw that at the Fox.
And she was on
Yeah.
Gilmore Girls. Let's not forget that. There are 63 national parks in the U.S., but some are more popular than others. And the National Park Service just shared which places were visited most in 2024. All right. Number 10 was Glacier National Park in Montana. Grand Teton, I really want to go there, in Wyoming. Number 8, Olympic National Park in Washington State. Acadia in Maine. Yosemite was 6th.
Wow.
Rocky Mountain National Park in Colorado, 5. Yellowstone, number 4. Grand Canyon, number 3. Oh, it's awesome. Zion National Park is also awesome. That is the second one.
Where
is
is
that
Zion
right?
again? Where is that again?
That is out west in Utah.
Okay.
And the number 1 is the Great Smoky Mountains National Park in North Carolina and Tennessee. I guess it's probably the easiest to get to.
I was going to say some of them are just easier to get.
That's a good one.
You have to get reservations
ashamed.
and stuff.
I'm so ashamed. I don't know that I've been to any of those.
Wow. I think
Oh,
I've been to,
seriously?
Yeah.
6 of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never been to the Smoky Mountains, and it's ridiculous because we're so close. Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah, that's a great trip.
Yeah, that's a really good trip. And Zion is great. So is the Grand Canyon. It's really awesome. And finally, in Sue's News, we have today's random fact. Why did I bring this up? It reminded me, I can't remember who I was talking to about this, but here we go. Penguins have knees.
They do?
Their legs, Jane, just look super short because most of their leg bones are covered in feathers, but they have knees.
Okay. That is wow.
Oh,
It's kind
I
of making
remember.
my brain hurt.
Well, I talked to Trisha. She took Bernie, and he loved the penguins.
Of course. How do you not love
yeah.
a penguin?
And but I don't know. She knew.
I
that they
can't
have
see the knees. I'm looking at pictures and I
It's
can't.
because they're
see.
under the feathers.
Oh,
I just
they're
have
feathered knees.
to close the loop here on Sound of Music, because as we're
Oh.
talking about that, I get a text message from a friend of mine who I went to high school with. We're still friends, Dirk Elstrom and Tarleton Corporation, great company. Although this might put him into question. He says The Sound of Music is the all-time best movie, hands down.
Absolutely.
100%.
Way to go, Dirk.
No question about it.
Yes, yes. We watch it
Apparently,
once a
Dirk
year.
has transitioned. I don't know. I must have
No.
missed the email
Oh,
on that
you
chick
stop
flick. We're
that.
coming back.
No.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
I had that on 45, and I had bought it at Target.
I
Thank
love
you.
that. I
Thank
love
you
it.
very
Yes.
much. On the roads this afternoon, westbound 70 looks fine out of downtown. Really no delays there. Now, the big issue we had on southbound 55 was an accident south of 141, and they had the right lanes blocked. Still some slow-moving traffic through there if you are southbound on 55. Westbound 64, that's a slow go. And it's mainly from Clayton Skinker on out through Big Bend, and then it opens up. And it's only moderate volume. Westbound 40, slow, mainly Lake St. Louis Boulevard out through the 70 split. Now, listen, eastbound 70 has some moderate volume east of Forestel through Wentzville. I'm wondering if that's not students from Mizzou heading home for the weekend. And southbound 270, a little bit slow at 70. Now, if you're headed into Illinois, there's a little volume headed for the bridge, the Poplar Street Bridge, but it's westbound that is lined up coming in from Illinois. This report brought to you by New Perspective Senior Living. New Perspective Weldon Spring is redefining senior living with modern apartments, delicious meals, activities, entertainment, and even a state-of-the-art AI fall detection system. Visit npseniorliving.com to schedule a tour today. I'm Sue Thomas. That's Traffic 97.1 FM Talk.
Yeah, I'm losing out on The Sound of Music. Congresswoman Ann Wagner.
Come on.
Ann
thank
also
you.
chimes in. Thank you for listening this afternoon. The Sound of Music rocks. So maybe I just need to watch it again.
Yes, it's so wonderful.
All right. Well, let me talk about MasterCars Inc. because I love the gang in Granite City, Alex and Gary Rosenberger. I've worked with them many times before. And I just have to say passionately that if you're interested in a car, if you want a great used vehicle that has maybe some miles on it, but is still in great pristine condition, that's what they do at MasterCars. So it's a used car dealership, new car caliber. Now, they do specialize in muscle cars and Corvettes and Harleys and stuff like that, but they have everyday vehicles with super low miles. We have, for example, I always use a Toyota 4Runner as an example. I have my second 4Runner right now. And if you go to Alex and Gary, say, look, I'm looking for a 4Runner, or maybe it's a truck or something along those lines, a Camry with 20,000 miles, 30,000 miles, 50,000 miles, obviously more miles, better price. They'll find you a great, great car. They have new arrivals daily, all auto check certified. Plus, if you have a vehicle that you need to sell or trade it, they'll take the trade-in. But if you want to get top dollar, trade it into MasterCars, sell it to MasterCars. They'll take great care of you. MasterCars Inc. They're in Granite City. MasterCarsInc.com. Tell them that I sent you along.
I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. I've been asked many times how Morgan & Morgan became the largest injury firm in the world. I think I know. When someone comes to us for an on-the-job injury, we have a huge workers' compensation practice. But many times we find a defective product that was responsible for that injury. Luckily for them, we have a product liability section headed by my son, Mike. In addition to the comp case, there is a product case too. Other times, the injured worker is fired or harassed for bringing that claim. We have them covered. Our employment lawyers handle retaliation claims as well as wage theft and discrimination cases, and in some cases need to file for Social Security benefits. No problem. We became big for a reason. 30% of our new cases come as referrals from former clients. Hiring us is easy. Go to forthepeople.com on your mobile device or computer, or call Pound Law on your cell, pound 529. Morgan & Morgan. Injured? Dial Pound Law or visit forthepeople.com for an office near you.
Well, if you're like me and you enjoy wine, especially quality wine, you have to try the delicious wines from Stonehill Winery. This winery, if you've never been there, it's in Hermann, Missouri, so it's local, been around since 1847. Listen to this. Stonehill's Cross J. Norton wine beat out 235 other wines in a Missouri wine competition this year and ended up winning the Governor's Cup. Stonehill is Missouri's oldest and now most awarded winery. The winery itself, this is really cool. It has the largest series of underground vaulted cellars in North America. So what's cool is if you get a chance to go to Hermann, you can stop into Stonehill Winery and take a tour. Really cool. They do all kinds of events there, weddings. Think about how cool that would be. I got to try some of Stonehill's Ozark Hellbender the other night. It's a dry red wine and it's fantastic. Actually, listen to the description of this wine, okay? Aromas of sweet cherry, blueberry pie smeared with a plum compote and drizzled with cinnamon sticks and toasted oak goodness. You can find Stonehill wines at virtually any retail store here in Missouri, brought to you by our friends at Lore Wine and Spirits.
If you've listened to 97.1 FM Talk, you've heard of Doug Voss of Voss Financial and Safe Money Radio, as he has been a staple as the financial expert on the station for many years. You can hear him on Safe Money Radio every Saturday at 2, right here on 97.1 FM Talk, and you can talk to Doug Voss directly. Here's his number. Call Doug at 844-676-SAFE. That is 844-676-7233. Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities, LLLP, member FINRA and SIPC.
It's time for a $98 AC tune-up.
And at 4:30, this portion of the show is sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating and Air.
On-time news. On your time. Your time. Download the Odyssey app and dip in whenever you want. And stay on top of what's happening. 97.1 FM Talk on the Odyssey app. You're listening to The Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk.
Frank Cusumano coming up in a little bit. We're going to get excited about the Blues series against the Jets. We'll talk a little Cardinals baseball. They did drop the first of the series with the Mets, but the Cardinals are winning series right now, and that's very, very important. Paul Hall on entertainment, as we usually do on a Friday. He's going to start with this movie called Sneaks.
Once a year, sneakerheads come together for the largest convention this side of the Hudson River. The Sneakerhead Gala.
Congratulations to our winner.
I got the ticket. I won. These shoes, they're going to change everything. Stay right here.
A foot! He put his foot inside me.
I like him.
I believe this is animated, and it sounds like family fare for Easter weekend.
It is. It's nice to have something that's animated that's not coming out of the Disney, Pixar, or DreamWorks type of angle from animation. This is a movie about sneakers because when we were all younger, I mean, I go back to my youth and I think about Jordans were the big thing, and you couldn't wait to get that new pair of shoes on. And this is a young man who goes to a sneaker convention, and he happens to do the unprecedented. He wins a pair of brand new limited edition sneakers. They get separated, and there's a collector that's after them and trying to get them from him. So it's a matter of these two sneakers that were a pair, separated, one kind of traveling all over New York looking for the other. And it's kind of a fun little, just a fun thing for the young kids. It's not something I'm going to say you're going to go to and remember forever and ever. I'm not going to talk about it in awards at the end of the year, but you're not going to be disappointed at all. It's upbeat, it moves, and it keeps the kids interested. I found myself enjoying Sneaks more than I didn't. Voices in here include just people like Martin Lawrence and Anthony Mackie, and really your two lead roles. And Lawrence Fishburne plays the collector who's after these shoes. It's a great time, and quite frankly, if you're looking for something to get the kids out of the house and over the weekend, Sneaks isn't a bad place to go.
Huh. Well, as you know, Paul Hall, we often talk just a little bit about politics on this show, and there's a documentary called The Dark Money Game.
In Mexico, it's a bite. In China, it's tea money. In America, it's called campaign finance. Dark money led to the biggest case of political corruption in the history of Ohio.
In 2019, there was an investigation involving Matt Borges and Neil Clark. Neil had been one of the most powerful lobbyists in the history of the state.
Ready to people over.
All right. Well, I'm curious about this because I like Alex Gibney, who directed this. Alex Gibney has done exceptional documentaries in the past. Enron, The Smartest Guys in the Room, among them, really, really good. But this is one where I'm a little wondering, and Jane, you're probably going to disagree with me on this, of how fair the assessment of that particular Supreme Court verdict was, because your side has been complaining about Citizens United for a long time, right? That it's ruined everything in politics.
That and term limits in Missouri have really.
Well, on that we don't disagree. Have you seen this one though, Paul?
I have. The Dark Money Game is kind of split up, at least for now, in two episodes. One being Ohio Confidential, which deals with the corruption case within the Ohio legislature, where First Energy kind of is thought of to have bought many people in the Ohio legislature. And yeah, Citizens United is at the crux of kind of what went on here. And then there's a second part that's out now on Max as well called Wealth of the Wicked, which gets into more of the religious side in the Catholic Church and some of the other places where, in the Christian churches, where money gets involved and people change their views on things. I don't think conservatives are going to be happy watching this, but the thing about Gibney is he always puts together something quite interesting to watch. You may not agree with it, but he's going to tell you an interesting tale, and he definitely has a position before it's all said and done. I'm not going to tell you what that is, but it's a tough watch because it feels very long for an hour and a half that each one of them are. But if you can get through it, it's a very interesting look at money and politics, and it's something that I think people should check out. And I think he should go deeper and do more because there's more out there, not just the Ohio Republicans.
I'll watch it because I do have respect for Alex Gibney, but I also know how the politics in 99% of the documentaries out there go, and I just wonder if it'll be a completely fair assessment.
Does it get into the nonprofit industrial complex where you have all these nonprofits who are really just shadow political organizations?
Well, it's all those super PACs and gets into how to basically hide money within politics, where you don't need to tell people who you are, but you can get money to people and checks being paid to people directly. I mean, the case is overwhelming here with the FBI, what they got in wiretaps as you go through Ohio Confidential, that it's just, it's mind-boggling. But it's not the only place it's going on, and it's not the only party that's doing it. So
no doubt. Well, I'm curious about that, so I think I'm going to watch it. You got anything else? Because I want to talk about a couple things that are out there, but what else you got, Paul?
Yeah, let me mention briefly, new on demand, Count Me In. I know you're a music fan, Mark, and Count Me In is something that had me smiling throughout. It's about drummers and drummers in the business from every different band under the sun, from Nico McBrain, from Iron Maiden to Stuart Copeland to Chad Smith. This is really had me smiling because it's just guys and girls who have fun doing what they do. And then I just wanted to mention again, we're up to episode 3, and I know you and I have chatted a little bit about this. I know, Jane, you're checking it out. There's a new episode out today of Your Friends and Neighbors, episode 3 of eventually 9 that will be available in this. It'll go all the way up till Memorial Day before it's all said and done, of Your Friends and Neighbors, John Hamm. This episode's title that you can check out today, Theoretical Herpes. Now, discuss amongst yourselves.
Well, a couple things. I like this show quite a bit, and I'm almost through the 3rd episode because I started last night. I thought they also they dropped the 4th episode. Did they not?
Yeah, I thought, because I've seen 3.
Yeah. I think the 4th is also out there, Paul. I think
I'm sorry. The 4th comes out on the 25th.
Okay.
So yeah, that's definitely, we got
3.
Yeah. 3 are out as of earlier today, actually.
Well, I must have saw it wrong, but let's just talk about the show. I think this is really good work from John Hamm. And I've been, kind of not all in on some of these shows this year, and I don't watch Severance and some of the things that people were raving about. I've given up even on The Bear season 3, but I thought the first 3 episodes of this were amongst the best I've seen this year.
I think you're going to love it as it goes on too. I mean,
really good.
I'm up through episode 6. I refuse to watch episode 7 because obviously I have a little birdie that provides me with some stuff in advance. I have refused to watch episode 7 because I don't have access to episode 8 and 9 yet. So I don't want to be wanting for any period of time here, shall we say. But I think you'll like the way it moves through as the season progresses. We'll just say we deal with a lot of the different characters here. And a lot of these people, much like White Lotus, you can't really like them, but that doesn't mean they don't tell an interesting story.
Well, as we indicated, I talked about this a little earlier. John Hamm plays a guy by the name of Andrew Cooper, and he loses his wife, and his wife basically is now with an ex-NBA star who's
one of his friends, his
best friend, played by Mark Tallman. So he loses his house, then he loses his job at the hedge fund, and this is not really a spoiler because the whole show is kind of framed around this. He basically resorts to stealing like expensive watches and things like that from people that he's friends with or that he knows, and he turns it into a little, cash making industry because he's non-liquid. I think it's really intriguing, and I love the cast. Even I was mentioning, Paul, I like Olivia Munn in this. I've never really been a fan of Olivia Munn, but I think they're onto something.
She cracks me up,
and it's good to see John Hamm in a really good show again.
Yeah.
The thing about this too is he finds out more than just he does more than just stealing things from his friends in the neighborhood. He finds out secrets that may be going on within the neighborhood as well. Things that you wouldn't know unless you're breaking into their house or finding some accomplices along the way.
There was quite a moment in episode 3 with a woman that came home for sure. I loved it. All right. Anything else we want to talk about? Jane, what else are you reading? Watching. Here's my challenge going into next week. Okay. By next Friday, I need probably about 3 or 4 shows.
Oh, because you're going to be on a plane.
I'm going for a 9-hour plane ride and then another 3 hours to Greece and then coming back.
Yeah, we have to focus
on
that.
So, Paul, your mission between now and next week is to give me some good recommendations, probably episodic stuff, just because then I get 8 or 9 episodes and I can watch it on the plane.
It's easy.
Did you ever watch Paradise?
I'm not done with Paradise. I liked it. That's one I need to download the rest of because sometimes it gets into a situation where Becky and I watch some shows. I think a lot of couples do this together. And then I kind of went rogue on that one. And since she's not watching it, I haven't gone back yet. But I do like it quite a bit. Jane, you watched Paradise, right?
Yes, I liked it a lot.
Okay.
So I definitely, you should watch that one.
Paul, tell folks where they can find your reviews.
SimpleCommonGuy.com.
We'll talk next Friday. You better get to work on my recommendations.
I'm on it.
All right, we'll see you. Frank Cusumano's coming up. The Blues start the playoffs tomorrow. The Cardinals have been pretty decent this week. That and more coming up.
traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
We've got a pretty nice commute. You can tell it's a holiday or a holiday weekend as well. And westbound 70 looks fine out of downtown. There's some moderate volume headed for Wentzville, and eastbound a slow pocket or two from Forestdale through Wentzville. Westbound 64, moderate volume, Lake St. Louis Boulevard, and out of downtown, slowing near Hampton, out through McCausland. But if you are headed into Illinois, we look fine on the approach to and on the bridges downtown. Now, westbound, there's a little bit of volume. And we've got an accident reported on the ramp from northbound 55 to the Poplar Street Bridge. That's created a jam that goes back onto 44 through Jefferson. That's it for problems, though. We look fine. They've even cleared the accident southbound 55 that was south of 141. The bad news there is that people took Lee May Ferry as an alternate, and it is just jammed, headed down toward Arnold. Same thing with Telegraph as you try to take that to 61. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic on 97.1 FM Talk. Well, you know our tax code is nuts, right? I mean, we've just all been through that, figuring out taxes, which is why a lot of us just give it to someone else to do. Well, according to financial and tax architects, in that tax code is an IRS tax code section 1.408A-4 that has a really good tax saving strategy for your retirement. And if you've been saving money and you're ready to retire, but you have no plan, this is the sort of thing we need to know. So if you'd like to go to a 3-hour adult education class called Retirement Planning 101, it's a really good idea. It's just one night. It's taught by an advisor from Financial and Tax Architects, and they will tell you everything you need to know about that tax code or how you get the most out of your money in retirement. They do it for free, but you do need to bring 3 canned goods for a St. Louis Crisis Nursery. There are still a few openings for classes this month, so register. You just call 314-947-2012, 314-947-2012.
Ready for instant curb appeal that comes with a 25-year transferable warranty? Call Rhino Shield today. We do brick, block, stucco, asbestos, aluminum, steel, cedar, and more. Over the past 20 years, we've done thousands of homes, businesses, churches, schools, condos, parking garages, large metal buildings, and strip malls, from Champaign to the Lake of the Ozarks. We do flat and sloped metal roofs to extend their lives too. Proud to be veteran-owned and manufactured in the good old USA, so we're tariff-free. We're exceeding expectations every day. Evaluations are free. A+ rated with the BBB and a lot of 5-star Google reviews. Call 877-25-RHINO, 877-25-RHINO, or 877-25rhino.com. See what we did there? Genius. Tell them, ladies.
Don't paint, don't Rhino. Go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
I want to talk about Innsbruck, which is an awesome community that is about an hour away from St. Louis. And I love it. I wish I owned a home out there. I do not. You can, though, but you can also dip your feet into the water out in Innsbruck and rent something. And let me go over some of the options and they do have great real estate staff on site. These homes out there have really skyrocketed in value. I've talked a lot about the tree houses, which is one of the newer developments. You have to go online and see these because it's not like they're just sitting in a tree somewhere. They're beautiful homes. They kind of went one step from there in what they call the Sonnenhaus design. That's a little different. It combines the modern exterior of the treehouse with kind of a cozy elements in the interior of a cottage, and they're beautiful. They have chalets, the old A-frames out there. They have custom homes. So no matter what you're interested in, and again, you can rent a property. We often go out there with the dogs and do a dog-friendly property. All of that is available, and you can do everything on site: hiking, fishing, horseback riding. There's a big pool. They have an amazing 4th of July celebration. Lots of fun out at Innsbruck. And you can always find out more at Innsbruck-resort.com.
Let's show our appreciation for local heroes. Mark Cox here. Nominate a first responder and their department could get lunch from Grill Master Tony's. I'll personally deliver it. Share their story at 971talk.com. Nominate them today.
Saying what you're thinking. Mark Reardon.
Don't get angry with me. I never caused you no
Well, here we go. The Blues attempt to win another Stanley Cup, and they've been playing really strong, as we know, closing out the season, but they face the 1 seed in the Winnipeg Jets. Frank Cusumano from KSTK is with us this afternoon. Hey, let's knock off the 1 seed, right?
Yeah.
How hard can that be?
Yeah, in hockey, it actually happens, Mark.
I know.
Basketball, it rarely happens. And, look, I know the Winnipeg Jets had the best record in the league and the most points, but they're going to face the hottest team in the league since the Four Nations break. And they're coming in there with a goaltender who's won a Game 7 and just a beautiful chemistry about this team. But on the other side of the coin, Connor Hellebuck is going to win the Vezina Trophy for the 3rd year in his unbelievable career. So they are loaded, and they've had nothing but disappointments in the postseason in their careers. And let's just hope they have one more in 2025.
Well, so are you concerned at, obviously, you win 12 in a row, you get spoiled, and then you lose a couple, and people start to get concerned. But are you concerned at all on how they finished these last few games?
Well, not the last one, but that one 3-game skid right before the final one was a little disappointing. And they were playing without Dylan Holloway, and they still will play without Dylan Holloway. I don't think enough people are talking about it. He was one of their 4 best players all year, an electric scorer who wasn't afraid to hit people. And he's not going to play in this playoff, and maybe the second round, but he's not going to play this one against Winnipeg. And that's a major loss. So they've adjusted from that. Fortunately, Zach Bolduc and Jimmy Snuggerud have picked it up a little bit, but I don't think you can just flat out replace Dylan Holloway.
Yeah, well, and you just don't have a good handle on how severe that injury is because they don't really have to say, do they?
Yeah, they don't. It's that nebulous lower body injury, but just the vibe I get. And he's actually skated a little bit, but I just don't think we're going to see him in this series.
All right, well, we're going to hope for our best. Well, they have, and I don't know how these hockey series work completely. Game 1 is tomorrow. It's 4:30, right? What about the next few?
Okay, the next one would be Monday, and then they come to St. Louis Thursday, and then St. Louis on Sunday, too. Then if Game 5, 6, and 7 are necessary, they'll alternate those games.
Frank, if I recall correctly, we think back to 2019, and this was that opening round of the Cup playoffs. Of course, we all know what happened following that, but the Blues started off the first round in Winnipeg, and I think that they took the first 2. Now, nobody's expecting St. Louis to be up 2-0 after 2 in this series, but talk about how big in hockey it is when you start on the road to be able to take one of those games, because then you have home ice advantage after that.
Yeah, and I don't know, if you were there the other night, but let me tell you, that home ice advantage in hockey, and they're all packed, and they're all crazy, and it's all really, really loud. That is just if you could steal one in Winnipeg, I'll tell you, if you ask Jim Montgomery right now, would you take one? In a heartbeat, he would take one. It is so tough to win on the road in National Hockey League playoff games.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the Cardinals, because that's not really all bad news right now. They dropped the first one against the Mets. They've been a fun team. I was talking to Matt Pauley about this yesterday. Look, I think we can all kind of admit the last couple of years, this team's been really boring and they can't score runs. They're a lot more fun to watch. We have won some series, Frank. So they're putting a little bit together here. I know we talked about on Monday, the month of April and getting out of this at around 500. That's certainly possible right now.
Yeah. And it's another series that if you were able to go to New York and win 2 of the 4, you take that in a heartbeat. And last night, Andre Palante gave up 4 runs. He didn't pitch badly. He pitched 6 innings and gave up 4 runs. That was the most runs given up by a Cardinal starter in 9 games. That's the good news. The bad news is Miles Michaelis is going tonight, and I don't know if he can do the same thing. But offensively, you're absolutely right. They had the leading batting average in the major leagues going into that game last night, hitting .280. That was their batting average, which is really good in 2025, but they only managed 3 hits last night. I will say this, this Brendan Donovan is absolutely insane. This hitting streak is now up to 13. He's batting .373. I got to tell you something, Mark. He gave me, he gave the whole media kind of like an analysis of how he approaches each at-bat, and he sounded like a Harvard grad. Wow. It was just beautiful. I understood like half of it, but he is really an eloquent and erudite baseball player who happens to have great bat-to-ball skills also.
What do you know? I'm hearing from my sources in Como that we picked up another quarterback, Drink did, from Pennsylvania, a guy named Gavin Sidwar. You know anything about that?
I do not. We're talking about a high school player?
Yeah, this would be for 26.
4-star, I think.
Oh, 26.
4-star,
Wow.
yeah.
And that's really good. The only thing I'm hearing from Columbia right now is that there's going to be a real battle at that quarterback spot. Everybody thought the guy from Penn State, Prabulia, is going to come in and win it. But Sam Horn throws a really good ball, and he's been in that program a long time. So we'll see about that battle.
All right, what's coming up on Sunday Night Show?
Okay, a couple things. We're going to talk with the guy who's really been like the major reason for the Cardinals hitting the ball well. Their hitting coach, Brant Brown. We're going to talk with one of the greatest basketball players ever from this area, LaFonso Ellis, and we'll talk hockey with the former goaltender from Parkway South, Mike McKenna, who played in the league with 8 different teams. He's a real smart guy. He'll break down the playoffs for us.
We didn't mention City. We've kind of ignored them a little bit, but they're in action this weekend as well. Where do they sit with everything right now?
Well, they're not. It's not a good spot right now. They've lost their last 4. They have 1 goal in those 4 games. They'll host Vancouver tomorrow night. Let's hope things change for them.
All right, Frank, have a great weekend.
Thanks, Frank.
All right.
Happy Easter.
Appreciate it. Yeah, happy Easter. All right, well, that wraps up everything here for Jane's part of the program with us as we head into Easter weekend. I know that you're going to be overdosing on Peeps this weekend and enjoying Easter with the family. We already went over the ham issue. And Ethan, where do you stand on hams? Did you weigh in on that?
I think that Easter dinner as a whole, out of all of the major holidays that we gather for meals for, is the most underwhelming. Ham is fine, it's okay, but there's nothing special about it.
I'm taking him on our side, Mark, for that.
Yeah,
I didn't hear where everyone else was at.
I'm
on this.
anti-ham.
You're anti-ham.
Fred and Jane pro ham.
I'm not necessarily like.
You're being
super
wishy-washy.
strong
Yeah,
for-
he
I'm being
Make a
I'm being-
decision.
I'm being the equivalent of Gavin Newsom. Okay, that's
yes,
what I'm being.
you are actually.
I can go for it if it's there, but I'm not going to hardcore advocate that it needs to
Right.
be.
Yeah, I can understand that. I think that's a fair
brunch.
assessment.
Nothing
we
beats
agree
brunch.
on.
Nothing beats brunch.
Yeah.
Well,
Brunch
have
is
a
good.
great Easter weekend, Jane, and we will see you next Friday before I head off to Greece, which I'm going to be gone for a little bit on that. We got a variety of people, I think, filling in. We're taking a break here at the top of the hour. We mentioned movies with Paul Hall, but I'm very excited, and a lot of people should be. The movie that is based on the life of John O'Leary is going to open a little bit later this week. I was at a fish fry, and somebody came up to me a couple of weeks ago, Jane. I think it was at Queen of All Saints, and they knew John, and we were talking about John, and I said, you know what? Somebody just raised this question. When is that movie coming out? And we Googled it, and it didn't seem definitive. And then this week, I saw John post on Facebook, and for people who don't know his story, you want to make sure you tune in the next hour. He's coming up at 5:25. He set himself on fire. He probably, by all accounts, should be dead. Shouldn't have survived this, but Jack Buck, the legendary Cardinals announcer, played an immense role in his recovery. William H. Macy plays Jack Buck in the movie,
That is,
and
yeah.
John's going to fill us in. You know, the other thing about it is they filmed it here in St. Louis. And that's very unusual since
Love
the
that.
tax credits went away. They really haven't made films. But as I remember John telling the story, and I'll ask him about this in the next hour, the director came to kind of get the feel for the whole story and said, oh, we have to do this. We have to do it here.
Oh,
So
that's nice.
for authenticity.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jane. We'll see you next weekend. We'll take a break here, get to Fox News at the top of the hour, and we'll also visit with Brad Young after the top of the hour. He's going to hang out after his appearance on the Roundtable. That's coming up as well.
Follow Mark on Twitter at Mark Reardon KFTK and Instagram at Mark Talk. You're listening to The Mark Reardon Show. Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Not a bad commute today on this Good Friday. If you are leaving downtown, there's some volume west of Kings Highway out past McCausland, but then it opens up and looks fine. Just moderate volume out at Prospect. Now, eastbound 70, a little slow as you head toward Wentzville. Westbound slowing at Wentzville, but then it opens up. And eastbound 44, there was an earlier accident on the ramp from northbound 55 to the Poplar Street Bridge. They got that cleared, but still some slow going back onto 44. We have an accident reported now on northbound 270. Just as you approach Gravois, expect a jam back through 21. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic. This report brought to you by Point with an E Pest Control on 97.1 FM Talk.
Termites cause $5 billion in damage to homes and businesses in the U.S. every year. Call Point Pest Control now at 636-798-0023 and reclaim your space from unwanted pests. That's 636-798-0023. PointPestControl.com.
Been about, I think we're going on 7 months now. I've raved about New Perspective Senior Living, which is out in Weldon Spring. It's a brand new senior living community. They have independent assisted living. They have a memory care facility as well, and they're making a huge difference. It's a great location. It is a beautiful facility. It opened up late last summer, bringing beautiful modern apartments, 1 and 2 bedroom, chef crafted meals, great activities, an awesome place to live. And again, the location is really, really great near Weldon Spring. Gives you easy access to 6440, which gets you on 70 if you need to as well. Easy to get there, easy to visit as well. And everything is fresh, inviting, designed with comfort in mind. Get a tour. Set up a tour today. Call 636-229-1311 or visit New Perspective Senior Living online at npseniorliving.com. That's N as in Nancy, P as in Paul, npseniorliving.com. New Perspective, a brand new place in Weldon Spring to live life on purpose.
Herman's Hermits, starring Peter Noon.
Something tells me I'm into something good.
And the Lovin' Spoonful. Do you believe in magic? Saturday, October 25th at the Family Arena with the Hollies' greatest hits, starring Terry Sylvester. Get tickets now at the Carroll House Furniture box office, located at the Family Arena or Ticketmaster. Herman's Hermits, starring Peter Noon and the Lovin' Spoonful.
It's the greatest pop rock of the 60s and 70s. The Happy Together Tour 2025 with the Turtles, Jay and the Americans, Little Anthony, Gary Puckett and the Union Gap, the Vogues, and the Cowsills. August 21st, the Family Arena. Reserve seats on sale now at the Carroll House Furniture box office located at the Family Arena or Ticketmaster.
Hey guys, Glover here with my very, very good friend, Dr. Kathy Maupin at BioBalanceHealth.com. If you have reached that certain age and you're just not feeling very well and nothing's working the way it used to work, go see Dr. Kathy. She is not only a medical doctor, she is a patient of this bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. It absolutely works. It's a long-term solution. She is an artist when it comes to helping you with your hormones. BioBalanceHealth.com for Dr. Kathy Maupin.
Whether you're shaping up a small yard or tackling serious acreage, Steel walk-behind, zero-turn, and stand-on mowers are built to get the job done. Shop online or at your local Steel dealer. Steel, let's go mow.
We, without hesitation, recommend that anybody work with ThrottleNet. The experience will be as good as it's been for us, for anybody, because you'll get a true partnership and you'll be able to rest easy that you're going to get the service that you need while they're also doing all those things that you don't want to have to think about, that you don't want to have to worry about. They're always doing that in the background for you.
Don't wait for your next IT crisis. If your business depends on technology, you need a partner that's got your back. Contact ThrottleNet.com to get a free IT evaluation and see how we can support your IT everything.
A lot of people, when they come in, they'll say, this is my last hope. The next step is getting them in the right arch supports. Our goal is to have that long-term change for them, to see someone that is in pain. I change things for them. See how we can help you with a free fitting at the Good Feet store.
KFTK FM Florissant from the Kaufman Townsley St. Louis's Injury Lawyers Studio. Call 314-500-5000.
That's 314-500-5000.
All on the free Odyssey app.
No longer in a notorious prison. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen back in the U.S. after going to El Salvador to meet with Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who was deported to his native country last month. Van Hollen says Abrego Garcia told him he was moved from the Seacon prison a few days ago. He gave some details of their conversation.
When I asked him what was the one thing he would ask for in addition to his freedom, he said he wanted to talk to his wife, Jennifer. I told him I would work very hard to make that happen.
President Trump earlier today blasted Senator Van Hollen for the trip. The Justice Department claims Abrego Garcia is a gang member.
We got a little biography of him. Not a very innocent guy.
But the administration has also said he was deported due to a clerical error. Lawyers for Venezuelans detained by the U.S. and suspected of being in the country illegally are asking a federal judge for emergency action to stop what they say is the immediate deportation of some of their clients under the Alien Enemies Act, a law used during the Second World War to place Japanese, Italian, and German Americans in detention camps. A vigil held this afternoon for the victims of yesterday's deadly shooting on the Tallahassee campus of Florida State University. University President Richard McCullough says these are some of the hardest days the university has faced.
Terrible act of violence shook our community. It's the kind of tragedy that shouldn't happen. Not here. Not anywhere.
2 people were killed and 6 others hurt when police say Phoenix Eichner, the son of a Leon County police officer, opened fire near the student union. He was shot and wounded by police when they say he didn't comply with commands. America's listening to Fox News.
It's tax season, and at LifeLock, we know you're tired of numbers. But this one you need to hear. $16.5 billion. That's how much money in refunds the IRS flagged for possible identity fraud last year. Now, here's a good number. $100 million. That's how many data points LifeLock monitors every second. If your identity is stolen, we'll fix it guaranteed. Oh, one last number. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS. Visit LifeLock.com for the threats you can't control. Terms apply.
Still getting around to that fix on your car? You got this. On eBay, you'll find millions of parts guaranteed to fit. Doesn't matter if it's a major engine repair or your first time swapping your windshield wipers. eBay has that part you need, ready to click perfectly into place for changes big and small. Loud or quiet, find all the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. But you already know that. eBay. Things, people, love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation. Weather.
Our weather is quiet right now, but a very active stretch coming up right through Easter Sunday. This evening, temperatures in the 70s. It's windy. It's mild all night long. Partly cloudy skies, the low 66. Friday, partly sunny, windy, and warm. Be a couple of showers, couple of thunderstorms around the focus late in the day. So anticipating a lot of dry time, 83. Friday night, rain and thunderstorms around. Some could be strong to severe. This is 97.1 FM Talk. Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
Step outside and fall in love with your backyard again. From inviting porch overhangs to durable composite decks and cozy screen rooms, Lakeside Renovation and Design creates stunning outdoor living spaces designed for relaxation, entertaining, and making memories. With expert craftsmanship and top-quality materials, your new outdoor oasis will be perfect for every season. Call Lakeside Renovation and Design today or visit lakesiderd.com to get started. Let's turn your backyard into the retreat you've always dreamed of.
If you're considering an annuity as part of your retirement plan, we need to talk. Hi, I'm Bob Stockdale, Senior Vice President Investments with the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel and host of On the Money, Saturday mornings at 11 on 97.1 FM Talk. Annuities can be a useful tool for some retirement investors, but not all annuities are created equal. Every week, we meet clients who own complex annuities that don't suit their needs and, in some cases, actively undermine their retirement plan. Before you purchase an annuity, get a second opinion from the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. Requesting a consultation is free of charge. To request a free consultation, contact us at clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com, or call us at 636-695-2650. That's clearpathinvesting.com or 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member NYSE and SIPC.
You've been listening to the very popular Wellness One for many years, Saturdays and Sundays on 97.1 FM Talk. We're happy to share that we've expanded the show to 4 times a week. Yes, 4 times every weekend. Saturday at 10 a.m., Saturday at 8 p.m., Sunday at 9 a.m., and Sunday at 2 p.m. It's the same great show designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you a common sense, science-based strategy for a healthy life. So join TJ and Aaron for Wellness One. Now 4 times a week on 97.1 FM Talk.
This hour of the Mark Reardon Show is sponsored by Gamma Tree Experts. Your trees deserve the best care. Call Gamma Tree Experts.
smokes on the hill rise. Got the man with the water light. Shouting like
I may or may not be letting the April wine run just a little longer here on 97.1 FM Talk, but I decided to do that. We got Brad Young, who was on the roundtable earlier, who's going to join us. And let me just kind of preview all of this before Brad steps back into the studio with what we were talking about in the roundtable. And that has to do with, okay, I can put the music down right now. Abrego Garcia. Chris Van Hollen was down, senator from Maryland, who has embarrassed himself and his state, I think, thoroughly this week. But I have some great Scott Jennings audio that I'm going to share in the audio cut of the day segment, which is really good. I also have some really good Stephen Miller audio on the very same topic. But let's go to some of the response from Democrats out there on this particular issue, supporting Senator Van Hollen, who says he's just down there for due process.
I think the threat on our democracy is real. This fact, the notion that we can take someone off the street, lock them up.
I will do everything in my power to go there. Here's a word I didn't think I was going to be using. The disappearing of people. That man was disappeared from his child.
Oh my goodness. It's all about that. But here we have some things that I think Brad and I are going to disagree on here in a couple of minutes. It's been pretty established that this guy was in MS-13. There's now video out there which shows, I don't know, was it human trafficking? He had a car full of people with no luggage. What was that about? It's been very well established in the last couple of days that he had threatened his wife and had been physical with her, however you want to put it. But what's happening now is Democrats are all on this boat and they want to claim it's about due process. What I said during the roundtable is I don't think there is any amount of due process that you can provide right now to these Democrats where they'd say, okay, here's a question I'd like to ask Senator Van Hollen or maybe one of the other Democrats that want to go to El Salvador and drag this guy back. What do you say about the wife beating? Again, it's not even allegations. I think we have a fair amount of proof there. What's your position on that? We thought that you cared about the Me Too movement and things along those lines. And this is all we've heard from the media this week.
The Supreme Court orders the Trump administration to return the Maryland father who was mistakenly deported to El Salvador's notorious prison.
The Maryland father. The Maryland father. The Maryland father. He will not return the Maryland father.
Maryland father.
The Trump administration claims it is not required to bring back Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the Maryland father wrongfully deported to a notorious prison in El Salvador.
So that's just a compilation of the week. I wanted to get to John Daniel Davidson did a great piece in the Federalist. And let's just be honest here about what this is about. He's not a Maryland man. He's a member of MS-13. He's an illegal. He's back in El Salvador where he belongs. And what he wrote the other day is on Wednesday, Attorney General Pam Bondi released police records showing, and this is what you're not going to see in the balanced media coverage that you have out there, which showed that Kilmar Armando Abrego Garcia, the Maryland father, the Maryland man who was deported to El Salvador, was in fact a member of MS-13 and was here illegally. You have lawyers out there, and by the way, the lawyers, I think, are working with the legacy media, claiming over and over that there's no evidence that he's a member of MS-13. Apparently, the cops just made it all up, right? Well, we have a police affidavit from March of 2019, which shows that he was arrested with multiple other confirmed MS-13 gang members, was wearing clothing associated with the gang, was identified by a confidential police informant. Of course, that came up on the roundtable. Oh, it's just one guy who's a confidential police informant, except that all the other evidence matches up here. And I want to get into the details of what happened, just so people know. The police say back in 2019 that Garcia and there were three other guys that were outside of a Home Depot in Hyattsville City, Maryland. As police approached them, two of the individuals reached into their waistbands, discarded several unknown items under a parked vehicle. That's according to the affidavit. One of the men, Christian Hernandez Romero, was immediately recognized by police as a member of the MS-13 Sailors Clique. Hernandez Romero, police said, has an extensive criminal history for multiple assault, concealing dangerous weapons, burglary, and many other offenses. And they even knew his rank and moniker, which was Bimbo. That was his name. One of the other guys that was there, Jose Guillermo Dominguez, was covered in MS-13 gang tattoos. He was identified as a past proven and reliable source as an active MS-13 gang member with the rank of Chequio and the moniker Manaccio, or Manaccio. We'll say Manaccio. As for Garcia, Police recognize his clothing as indicative of Hispanic gang culture and that he was a member in good standing with MS-13. This is all from the affidavit. The same informant told police that Garcia had the rank of Chiqueo and the moniker Chele, Chele. In addition, the arrest records at the time show that he, by his own admission, was an illegal alien from El Salvador. He entered the U.S. by walking across the border near McAllen, Texas, in March of 2012. At the time of his arrest in 2019 in Maryland, when he was loitering outside the Home Depot, he had $1,000, $1,178 on him, several plastic bottles with weed near him after the arrest. I don't think that that's a big deal. The fourth man was released. This is what's interesting. There were 4 guys when all this happened. The fourth guy is released because police were unable to determine his gang affiliation. So Garcia's lawyers are saying that the cops were just making up his gang affiliation with MS-13. Why didn't they do that with the fourth guy, right? There's 4 people. One of them gets to go on his own way, not Abrego Garcia. So let's get to the wife-beating allegations. Beyond being a verified member of MS-13 and an illegal alien, he's an alleged domestic abuser. And this is what came out in the last couple of days. While Senator Van Hollen is, on his way to El Salvador. In 2021, his wife sought a domestic violence restraining order against him, claiming he punched and scratched her, ripped off her shirt. So what John Daniel Davidson wrote in the Federalist is he's not a Maryland man. He's not a Maryland constituent at all. He's an illegal alien. He's a member of a terrorist gang who was ordered deported from our country. And while John admits the details of the case are complicated, they're somewhat convoluted, there can be no question that he has no right to be in the United States, right? He doesn't have legal status. He doesn't have temporary protected status. He doesn't have any status. His status is he's a gang member and a domestic abuser. So I mentioned that Brad, who was on the roundtable, might disagree with me on some of these principles because we did talk about due process. Mr. Brad Young, thanks for hanging out this afternoon a little bit.
My pleasure, Mark.
Let's get back into the Abrego Garcia situation a little bit, maybe from a different perspective. And let me offer this because I like Carl Cannon. He's the Washington bureau chief for Real Clear Politics. His dad was a legend in Washington, Lou Cannon. But he wrote something, and Carl will tell you that he's a nonpartisan guy, right? Which he is, and he kind of calls balls and strikes. And he's been a guest over the year. But this is what he wrote on Real Clear Politics today. I've hesitated to make a big deal out of it, but during Holy Week, I'd like to offer an observation about these Trump administration spokes ladies sporting gold cross necklaces. I missed some of that, but bear with me here, all right?
Understood.
I certainly don't question their faith, but I'd remind them by wearing such jewelry, they're anointing themselves ambassadors of the faith. That's a heavy crown. Here's what I mean. Nearly lost among the back and forth as to whether Kilmar Abrego Garcia is a loving husband and father, as his wife and attorneys say, or a thug and a criminal, as Trump administrations insist. This much is not in doubt. At the time he was apprehended, he was taking care of his severely autistic 5-year-old son. Everyone should be able to agree that this little boy born in America with special needs is utterly innocent. Jennifer Vasquez Sura told ABC News that their family relies on Abrego Garcia for his constant care and stability. So Carl basically goes on and essentially says that, on this Good Friday, I'm thinking that confused little boy in Prince George's County, Maryland, sniffing his father's shirts in expectation. And also I'm recalling Christ's admonition to his followers on how to regard children. See that you do not despise one of these little ones, Jesus said, for I tell you that in heaven, their angels always behold the face of the Father who is in heaven. Carl is an extremely empathetic man. That's fine. And I get that. And maybe there's some Christians who are listening right now who that resonates with, right? But
myself included.
Right. But the deal for me is there's ample evidence. Look, Brad, if I was arrested today here for some sort of crime, I might not be removed from the country, but I still would be removed from my daughter and my children. So look, this is a complicated case, as we indicated on the roundtable. For me, it makes no sense for Democrats to die on this hill with this guy. What happened to the Me Too moment? There's no doubt that some of this stuff happened. I mean, it's not even in dispute. And now we talked about this a couple hours ago, there's body cam video of him with all these people in this car in Oklahoma, trafficking them, giving them a ride. There's no suitcases. I don't know what it is, but how do you react to what Carl said?
Well, what strikes me is that the implication of what he wrote is that because he has an autistic child that needs his help, then he deserves to be at home with his child. That's the implication, clearly.
Sounded like it, yeah.
And here's the problem with that, especially since we're talking on Good Friday, that our mistakes, or certainly in the Christian nomenclature, our sin has consequences, and we are responsible for our actions. And so in this instance, whether it's being deported to El Salvador, whether it's being arrested and being detained within the United States, either way, Abrego Garcia is not going to be with his son because of the choices that he made, which was to enter the United States illegally. So either way you look at it, then he's going to be separated from his son because of the consequences of his actions.
I'm with you on that. But, and this is a topic we got into with Jane and Jeff Smith a couple hours ago. I am just shocked that the Democrats have kind of made another hero out of someone like this. They love criminals. I don't know why they love criminals. Scott Jennings pointed out, I have some great audio I'll share for Audio Cut of the Day if you missed it during the roundtable. But you have Mike Brown, George Floyd, there's any number of, assassins, Luigi Mangione.
Yeah, exactly.
This guy, really? These are the people you go to bat for.
Right. And don't forget the guy in Chicago that faked the whole MAGA wearing.
Jussie Smollett. Yeah,
exactly,
of course.
Smollett.
That's another great example.
Correct. Right. And so you have these, the phrase you used, hill to die on, with these individuals who are reprehensible people. And if I were advising the Democrat Party, which I'm certainly not, here's what I would tell them. I would tell them, don't focus on the character of these people. Focus on what rights they have and how those rights are being denied. For Abrego Garcia, as I talked about a lot on the roundtable, he's entitled to due process. Whether he's in this country illegally, whether he's here legally, whether he's an MS-13 gang member, whether he's a saint, whether he walks on water like Jesus, regardless of any of those circumstances, he's entitled to due process.
But did he get
under the law, and he did not get it.
Okay.
So for me, again, if I were advising the Democrats, I would say don't focus on trying to build this guy up into a quasi-religious figure. Focus on the fact that any person that's in this country, whether they're great, not great, large, small, sinner, or saint, they're all entitled under our Constitution to due process.
But where did he not get due process here?
He didn't get due process. For example, the Trump administration says that he's an MS-13 gang member. We don't know whether that's true or not.
We have court documents that say that it's true.
Well, he has court documents, but that's not due process, because due process means you get to face your accuser. And so you work that out in court. And so that's what due process means here. And even those who are transferred out of this country, who are deported, they get due process to see if they are allowed to be in this country legally or not legally. And he was denied that. He was simply grabbed, put on a plane, and flown out of the country. And he did not get his due process.
So then what should happen here?
What should happen is he should be brought back to the United States, not sent home. He should be sent back to the U.S. in custody to have a hearing on deporting him, a deportation hearing. And then if it's shown, again, at a deportation hearing, they don't care what your son is. They don't care how good you are. All they're going to do is determine, are you in this country properly, yes or no? And if the answer is no, then you're deported. That's what should happen.
But they're making it, look, the administration is making it very clear he ain't coming back here.
Right. I know that. So, but if you look at, and you look at the Alien Act of 1798, and if you look at that, Alien and Enemies Act, sorry, under that law, 1798, due process is not required. But as the Supreme Court articulated just recently, a couple of weeks ago, that even individuals who are being deported under that 1798 law are entitled to due process because of the evolution of our court system from 1798. So that applies to Abrego Garcia, and he needs to have his day in court. And then once he has his day in court, he's not going to be able to show that he's in this country legally, and then he can be deported.
Well, we'll see what happens there. I've got no love for this guy whatsoever. I just don't have the empathy. And part of the reason is, and I'm just being honest here, Brad, is because of the way they allowed millions of people to flood across the border. And to me, it is sickening and revolting that we have a United States senator that's flying down to El Salvador to bring this guy back and claim all this due process crap when you got a mother, certainly a different case in Maryland, who lost her daughter to a brutal murder, and nobody reaches out. They don't even acknowledge it. So I hate what's happened to this country. Maybe I'm willing to overlook a little due process because it pisses me off so much. The other thing, let me go back to the Me Too, movement comment. There have been people in this country, and I'm not defending their behavior because I don't know all the specifics, but their lives have been completely ruined because once there was an allegation of wrongdoing from a woman, because women are never wrong.
Correct.
You got to take them out, right? Let's get rid of them right now. You always have to believe women. In this particular case, there's no doubt. There's a police report. It's pretty clear what was happening with him. The wife felt like she was in danger, and it's all spelled out in a written statement. And what happened? And Democrats saying, oh, yeah, you know what? We kind of care about that issue, too.
Yeah,
because they don't.
Yeah, the Me Too people are certainly not on the bandwagon here. And that reminds me of going back even to the Clinton administration. Whenever it was obvious that he was a sexual predator, and you didn't hear anything from the National Association of Gals, or NAGs. You didn't hear anything from them when Bill Clinton was abusing women. You didn't hear anything at all, because they're willing to look aside and look away from those abuses when those abuses are being done by people that they support.
Yeah. One of the things I will have to admit here is that Republicans do a fair amount of this too, back and forth with hypocrisy. And I should at least acknowledge that with politics. Let's talk about Colorado and what's going on out there, because there's a bill that is kind of working its way through the legislature out there. It's called the Kelly Loving Act. And this is something where, and again, it's one of those issues that I'm not even sure exactly what the truth is, but what the claims are by the side that's not crazy about the alphabet mafia is that essentially you're making a crime of misgendering someone.
Correct.
So if I have a child, I'll just use my son as an example here. Who's in town.
Great.
If my son,
he's going to love this.
If my son Aiden wants to be an Alexa like my daughter, then I can't call him by his dead name, right? If I do that, I'm not acknowledging his situation. But are they criminalizing that out there? Or
Yes.
What are they doing?
Yes, it is going to be a criminal act, and it could actually result in people losing their parental rights over their children if they are misgendering their children. But here's what you have to look at this in the context of Colorado. This is the same state that championed lawsuits against the cake baker.
That's right.
Because he wasn't refusing service. He was refusing to decorate cakes to honor gay marriage. It had to go all the way up to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court actually reprimanded Colorado for trying to make an assault on Christian values by forcing a cake baker to honor a gay marriage. And then there was the website designer. They did the exact same thing.
Yeah, the playbook was the
exact
same.
same state. And they went right to the
And
playbook.
the results were the same.
And the results were the same. You can't force that. So when you look at what's going on with this misgendering law, even aside from the faith-based analysis, which impacts me because I'm a Christian, and this impacts me a lot, but when you look at it, even from a secular First Amendment perspective, this law is, in essence, if you break it down, the law is saying in the state of Colorado, the state can punish you for failing to use the correct words. And that is, if anything, can violate the First Amendment.
You
It's
think?
that.
Yeah, right. I mean, how is that even marginal?
Not even a
It's
close
not.
call.
Right. Well, there's all kinds of interesting things happening, and obviously the other side is doing some interesting moves that I can't believe. I cannot believe that Tim Walz is out there saying, his quote yesterday. I got to look this up, Brad. I don't know if you saw this. I used it on the show yesterday, and I don't know if I have the.
Did it involve
the sound.
tampons?
It did not involve.
Oh, okay. All right.
Legitimate question. No, he goes out there, and I have to quote him exactly because you don't want to miss out on this. If you're not speaking up for this man, there will be no one left to speak for you. To speak up for you. Why, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I'm sorry. And we're going to have to agree to disagree on the due process issue just because of my anger. Maybe that's not the quite legal interpretation, but it goes to my anger about all these issues right now. And by the way, Stephen Miller slapped down the media on this so effectively, and I'm going to use that coming up here in my audio cut of the day. Brad, we often talk about Mizzou football and basketball, and I got some good news from Columbia today. Apparently, we got a new quarterback from Pennsylvania, and I'm not talking about Pribula, the kid who's transferring. This is another kid named Gavin Sidwar, who could be the quarterback for 2026. He's going to be in that class. We'll see how good he is as a freshman. We had a tight end transfer from Iowa that was the number one player from Kansas last year. And you know who Sophie Cunningham is, who was a star at Mizzou basketball?
Sure, absolutely.
Sophie Cunningham's cousin.
Wow.
And apparently Coach Drink was not happy that they didn't get Gavin last year. And they, the other kid who's from Iowa. That's a big deal too. So this is awesome.
It's great. Every day, almost every single day, when I come home from work, I put on my Mizzou hoodie, and I wear it all the time, except when it's being washed. And my point being is I'm a big Mizzou supporter. I'm glad that they're finally getting to this point where they can draw talent. And that's what you need to do to build a dynasty.
Absolutely.
Is the ability to draw talent year in and year out.
Well, dynasty may be overstating, but look, to be competitive and to compete at the high level in the SEC and nationally, I think that's what we got right now. Listen, thank you so much for hanging out this afternoon post roundtable. You have a great weekend.
You too, Mark.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
We've got a report of emergency vehicles westbound 70 on the ramp to Mid Rivers Mall Drive. So watch for the left side of that ramp to be blocked. But for the most part, we look good. It's a holiday weekend for sure. And if you are southbound on 55, things look great out of downtown. We look fine in both directions on the Poplar Street Bridge. Westbound 64, a little slow. Hampton out through McCausland, but then it opens up until Lake St. Louis Boulevard, some slow pockets out through 70. Now, 70 itself looks great out of downtown. No delays there. There's a little bit of volume eastbound 70 headed for the Wentzville area, and that's it. Southbound 270 looks great. This report is brought to you by New Perspective Senior Living. New Perspective Weldon Spring is redefining senior living. They've got modern apartments, delicious meals, activities, entertainment, and even a state-of-the-art AI fall detection system. Visit npseniorliving.com to schedule a tour today. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
All right, let's talk about Underdog Fantasy, which is amazing, and it's a lot of fun. You could have fun, really a lot of fun during the NBA playoffs and the hockey playoffs and baseball, because with Underdog, and they do something very unique here with basketball. Let me kind of talk about that. They're calling it the extender promo. And the way that works is you can play your way into increasingly bigger boosts each round of the playoffs. So series goes longer, the bigger boost, that works out in your favor. You can start a series using your game one boost, and then you boost each subsequent game to unlock the next one. Underdog is something you need to download first, come up with a username and a password. I'll give you a promo code here that's going to give you some extra, cash as well. Millions of fans have won billions on Underdog. The app has over 100,000 five-star reviews, and it's a real simple process if you've never done anything like this. Once you download the app and you pick the username, you choose from a stat line, whether a player is going to go higher or lower, like points, assists, rebounds, etc. In the NBA and the NHL, it's goals and assists, Major League Baseball, home runs, hits, etc. Once you feel like the entry is good, put it together. You play with as little as $1. If you get everything right, you can win up to 1,000 times your money. So I'm not good at math, but here it is. You can turn $1 into $1,000 with your hoops knowledge, with your baseball knowledge, with your hockey knowledge. And you can combine entries. You don't have to have all one sport. You can mix and match as you please. So download the Underdog app today. Sign up with the promo code MARKR, M-A-R-K-R. That unlocks a special offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you make your first deposit. Again, it's Mark R. Must be 18 plus. Present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/extend.html. I'm supposed to read all that. For details, concerned with your play, call 800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org.
I'm Danny Cohn, CEO of the Jewish Federation of St. Louis. I want to share a bit about Passover, especially for those who may have friends, neighbors, or coworkers observing this meaningful Jewish holiday. Passover tells the story of Moses and the Israelites' journey from slavery to freedom in ancient Egypt. It is a time for family, reflection, and honoring traditions passed down through generations. Many families gather for a Seder, a special meal filled with symbolism and questions that spark conversation and learning. No matter what you celebrate this season, appreciating each other's cultures and traditions helps us build a more connected, compassionate St. Louis. So from our Jewish community to yours, Happy Easter, Ramadan Mubarak, and Chag Pesach Sameach. Happy Passover.
Experience the exhilarating atmosphere of a Cardinals game. Join the sea of red in the wave around the stadium. Feel the rush of excitement as a home run lights up the sky with fireworks, bringing the whole ballpark to their feet. Nothing beats the thrill of watching the Cards get the W with the final out at the plate. It's more than a game, it's an experience. Visit Cardinals.com for tickets and info. St. Louis Cardinals for the Lou.
Game tickets? Check.
A round of cold beers? Check.
Ballpark hot dogs? Check.
Baseball is back, and nothing beats a night out with the guys.
Or ladies.
At a Cardinals game.
From thrilling games and mouthwatering eats, the iconic ballpark energy, Busch Stadium is the ultimate spot for you and your crew to dive into America's favorite pastime.
Make your next night out the best one yet. Join us at Busch Stadium, where every hour is happy.
For tickets, visit Cardinals.com.
St. Louis Cardinals for the Lou.
They told us nothing but lies.
These timeshare thieves out there are terrible.
They bullied us.
It was a nightmare. We felt stuck.
Our timeshare is all a scam.
They stole from us. They were thieves.
I was completely taken advantage of.
Hello, I'm Chuck McDowell, founder and CEO of Wesley Financial Group, and I know the tough spot you're in. Are you asking yourself, why did I buy that timeshare? I'll tell you why, because that presentation wasn't a normal sales pitch. It was a show to convince you that timeshare is a great investment. They told you it was available today and today only. They said you're foolish if you don't buy, and unfortunately, you believed them. We get over 3,000 complaints a week from folks just like you that were misled into buying a timeshare. Give us a call. I guarantee if we take you as a client, we will cancel your timeshare or you'll pay nothing.
Call now for your free information kit. 800-314-2233. 800-314-2233. 800-314-2233.
It's time for a $98 AC tune-up.
All right, this portion of the show is sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating and Air. We have lots of storms that are moving through the area again this weekend. Remember what happened that Friday night a couple of weeks ago? Maybe your power went out. Let's do something to make sure that that does not happen again when the power goes out during a storm and you want to go to Generator Supercenter of St. Louis here in Chesterfield. They can help you out a lot with a free estimate on a Generac home standby generator. They're the best. These are not portable generators. They are top quality. And you need one of these, especially if you're worried about your food spoiling or just having your life move forward if the power grid fails. We've talked about this a lot with the grid itself. It was built in the 1940s and 50s. It's old. We know it can't handle the burdens of population growth. I think we've seen some of this in Texas and other states. You can be energy independent from Ameren, from utilities. You don't have to worry about that. We know we get ice storms here. Give yourself peace of mind with a free estimate on a Generac home standby generator from Generator Supercenter. They're the nation's #1 Generac generator dealer. Financing is available, and that free estimate is just a call away. 314-499-2020, Generator Supercenter of St. Louis.com.
The Foley Foundation works tirelessly to bring American hostages home. Kim St. here. We're raising awareness about the Foley Foundation's mission to reunite families, hold captors accountable, and prevent future hostage taking. Visit 971talk.com/events to learn more.
You're listening to The Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk.
Well, I'm not uptight, not unattractive. Turn me on tonight, 'cause I'm already active.
Oh, man. That is Jimmy Page playing lead guitar on that one. And the awesome Paul Rogers, who was in a bunch of different bands, including Bad Company, of course, singing on that. The Firm. I kind of forgotten about The Firm, Sue.
Oh, I love
Remember
The
that
Firm.
song?
Yes.
That's a great song from... it was 80s, wasn't it? Or
It
did that
sounds
go
like
into
it to
the
me.
90s?
Maybe, I don't
I'll
know.
have to check on that. But I put that in the bumper rotation. It is on the Spotify playlist. You can always find that at the end of the show on the X, formerly Twitter. I put the list of the songs. And a couple of weeks ago, I started doing the Spotify thing. So if you just want to, at the end of the show, press play on Spotify and listen to all the bumper music from today's show. I'm guessing a few thousand people out there will probably do that too.
Oh, for sure.
Before they go to bed tonight. But you can do it. You can absolutely do it. Hey, so we're at a fish fry a few weeks ago. This was a little bittersweet today for the roundtable because it was the first time we were in the studio in like 6 weeks. But there was a woman that came up to me a couple of weeks ago at Queen of All Saints who knew John O'Leary. I think there might have even been a distant relation or something like that. And I said, I love John. And, John has gotten to know my friend Chris Smith. By the way, Chris's book is out now. My Fatal First Date. We had him on the show on Tuesday talking about that and his inspirational story. But then this person at the fish fry was saying, wait, when does the movie come out? And I Googled it, and there didn't seem to be a definitive answer because Sony's making this movie. They filmed it here in St. Louis. One thing led to another. I saw John post something on Facebook.
I did too.
And he's with us tonight. That was a long-winded intro, and I apologize because you're the star here. How are you, Mr. O'Leary?
Reardon, I fell asleep during the intro. Remind me what we're supposed to talk about.
I deserve that, John O'Leary, wholeheartedly. But I'm so excited because now there seemingly is an answer to when the movie's coming out, right?
There is an answer, and truly, it's awesome to be on your show. Thanks for your work and your words and the intro to Chris, and for going to fish fries, man. So I'm a big fan of you and your work. As far as the movie was picked up by Sony on Tuesday this week, which is a huge deal for us and for our community. And it's going to be in theaters around the country and around the world starting October 10th.
So, John, I guess when you make, and I want to kind of go back to your story and people who might not be familiar with it, we should give them up to date. But with a project like this, you come in, you got a script, you got producers, you got money, you make the movie, but then you're never quite sure what the end project's going to be or the end product. And you don't know who's going to release it, if it's going to go straight to video. Well, it used to be video, straight to streaming, but a theatrical release in October in the fall. That's kind of a big deal, dude. I think you know that, right?
Well, the whole story is miraculous. It's not just like unlikely, it's impossible. So from surviving childhood burns to 100% of your body, that just doesn't happen. That's impossible. To having a relatively ordinary and good life afterwards doesn't happen. And the speaking career that you're aware of, I'm an introvert, dyslexic, and struggle academically. That doesn't happen. Terrified of flying. And yet that's the world we live in now. Into this film that you mentioned, the film wasn't produced by Sony. It was independently financed and funded. It was created by people with a dream of sharing this story, and we had no money. And even to draw on the assets, about 94% of the money raised was raised right here by people in St. Louis. And the very cool thing is then we filmed it here in St. Louis. The art is the backdrop in a bunch of the shots. The community, the culture, the character of St. Louis shines. Not only for us to celebrate in October, like I'm thrilled about that, but more importantly, I think nationally and internationally, we occasionally, believe it or not, get a pretty black eye for how sometimes we show up in national headlines. And this time with this film, man, it's nothing but good news. It's going to be a true celebration of our community.
So, John, I think you told me Sean McNamara, when he came into St. Louis just to kind of assess the situation, that's when he said, oh, we have to shoot it here, right?
Right. And so Sean McNamara has directed Soul Surfer. He directed Reagan last year.
Yep.
He's a stud. He's a great director, great guy. And we had everything planned to film it out in Vancouver. There's a bunch of tax rebates. It's easier and cheaper to film out there, Vancouver, Canada. Then he came to St. Louis to meet my mom and dad, to be just kind of polite. And then I took him on a tour of St. Louis, down to the Arch, Busch Stadium, Art Museum, down to St. Louis University and beyond. And it was while walking through the quad at St. Louis U, he goes, man, where are we? And I'm like, man, this is where I went to college.
Yeah.
And he's like, dude, this place needs to be in a film. And I'm like, all right, man. So we just started moving things forward. And as you know, Mark, the state laws were changed so we could film here in Missouri. 550 Missourians went to work while we were in town. It's just super cool how things collided perfectly to draw this film forward and then ultimately to land a deal like Sony.
I forgot do you have two actors or even more playing you? Is somebody playing a younger John O'Leary and then somebody playing an older John O'Leary, or how does that work? Or can you tell us?
Just context for your listeners. John O'Leary was burned when he was 9.
Yeah.
So that's part of the story. It's before he gets burned, during the fire, and then shortly after. And that's a little guy named James McCracken out of Chicago. Then they needed a far older, a far more handsome version of John when he was in his 20s. So they got a guy named Joel Courtney. Joel Courtney is
awesome.
An incredible actor.
Yeah.
I think he's got like 14 million followers online. When he and I used to go out when he was in town filming, if you're like between the age of 15 and 25, you know who Joel is. Like, young ladies love Joel. And yet this guy is so humble. He's so cool. He was so bought into the project. He loves St. Louis. He's coming back for the release. So there's just a lot of cool buzz going on around this. So, Mark, when you texted me, when Fred texted me earlier this week, it was right before we announced. So your timing was right on.
Well, and then we have to talk about Bill Macy because, and I feel like I can call him Bill because he plays Jack Buck, and Jack Buck plays such a role in this. And John, I'm thinking about this. So many of us here not only know your story, but we certainly, if we don't know your story, we know of Jack Buck. But there's a whole lot of people in this country that are going to really be, I think, wowed by that particular portion of the story, right?
It's the best part. I mean, so I was able to invite all the actors who participated to join us or not. And at the end of each video, I would remind the actors that, by the way, you're the hero in the story. To a nurse, to siblings, to my parents, these folks who play me in the film. And the only person I said you're not the hero was to Joel, the guy who plays me. The reality is, man, I'm not the hero in this story. I made mistakes, screwed up a whole bunch of times, and people just kept showing up for me. And no one showed up in a more mighty way than Jack Buck, this Hall of Fame radio announcer, baseball, football. I mean, the guy's all over the place touching lives. And he hears about a little boy who gets burned. He hears that the little boy is going to die. And rather than just saying, hashtag thoughts and prayers, he goes to the hospital that evening to visit. And then he goes back again and again, even in spite of the fact that the little boy probably won't survive. So Jack Buck saved my life, as you know, Mark. He taught me how to write. He did a whole lot more for me later on in life than we'll go into during this conversation. And we needed a big-time actor to play Jack Buck, someone who can convey that gravitas and that presence and that voice. And so we reached out to William H. Macy, who is, I think, one of the finest actors out there. And then after he said yes, and as he starts showing up in St. Louis and joining us for dinner and everything else, like, Bill's a nice guy. He's humble. He's funny. He's down to earth. So I think the folks who see the film are going to really enjoy Bill Macy.
Now, John, have you been able to see any of the film at this point or not?
Oh, yeah. So,
okay.
I'm a producer in the film.
Yeah, I knew I just didn't know how that worked, though. So you even saw probably dailies and stuff like that, right?
Yeah. So that's cool. Yeah, they do dailies each day, and we watch those to see how it's going. And then they put the film together, and then we test it, and then we test it again and again. And those numbers give you like, hey, what's working, what's not. So you move things around, you cut some scenes. And then Sony has their hands on it now.
Yeah.
So we're second seat to the big dogs out in California, and they will make additional changes. They're going to pay attention to the audience scores, and then they'll be rolling this thing out in October. And it's a big international release.
That is so exciting. I mean, I'm excited. And by the way, I'm sitting here, Sue. I get chills when I hear you talking about this story, John, and you talk about Jack Buck. I get chills. I really do. So I'm so excited. And you have to be that this is going to get a really, really good platform for a lot of people to see. And we need movies like this. We need movies that are inspiring, right?
And we need St. Louis celebrated.
Yes.
Listen, the reality is I could live anywhere I want. And my wife and I choose to raise kids here. We've been to the baseball game 3 times already this year, man. 2 losers, 1 winner, but we'll be back. We choose St. Louis, and I want the nation, and I want St. Louis listening to our conversation to recognize how good it is. Not perfect. There's some mistakenness, there's some brokenness, but at our core, we're good. It's our character that sets us apart, and you see that character again and again and again throughout the film.
Well, I can't wait. It's called Soul on Fire. It's going to be out in October. John O'Leary, I love you. You know that. Thank you so much for coming on here this afternoon. And my guess is this little segment's a best of that's going to run on Memorial Day weekend and maybe another holiday too. But John, good luck with everything. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank y'all for your work.
All right, take care. He's awesome.
He is awesome.
And he did hook up with Chris Smith, and I don't even know if they've actually met, but they connected. I tried to help Chris meet John, and they have a lot in common from, an inspirational story point of view. And Chris, by the way, has a new book out that's called My Fatal First Date, and it's out this week.
I have a question that you may know, and I didn't want to interrupt you during that thing, but how does that work? You raise funds from people, just everyday people, to do a movie, and then somebody shops it, and eventually Sony picks it up?
Yeah, so there's a script, right? I mean, the process varies because if you go into, books that are turned into movies that are higher profile, like J.K. Rowling and stuff, that's a whole different process. But look, as he indicated, I have my friend Jeff Drew. I've spoken to him before. The King, as we call him, he's an investor. There's a bunch of people that got together, and then you put enough money to meet the budget and do what the director and the producers seem to need. And then I didn't realize, because this is something that you don't hear talked about a lot, that they're in LA and they're showing this movie. I'm assuming in LA. I should ask him that. And I don't know if there's 30 people in there, and then they have scores, right? I've gone to some of these things for TV pilots before in the past. So you score what do you like, what don't you like, which character do you like, which don't you like, what part of the movie is boring, what part of the movie is not boring. So then they put a final cut together, but then it does take a different life of its own when it gets to a Sony distributor because they are going to put their stamp on it and make sure that, well, then they'll handle the publicity, they'll handle the junkets, the interviews, the premieres, all that stuff. But to have a big studio behind this is the difference in it just playing at an art house and it playing at all of the theaters around St. Louis and around the country.
Well, before there was a big big Sony behind it, how did they get William H. Macy?
Because I think he was drawn to the story. Look, a lot of big actors take projects where you're not cashing the huge paycheck because they do it for the love of their skill. I don't, I think John and Joel, the director, could probably tell you certainly much more about that. But you're able to get people for projects like this. And by the way, I don't know all the financials, but there's a part of me that thinks that Bill Macy's agent was smart enough to say, okay, we're going to do this movie for this, but there's a percentage, you get points in the movie based on success. And with Sony picking it up, rest assured, this is going to have a significant box office. I mean, you'd be looking at a movie that's probably making, even on the low end, 20, 25 million on an opening weekend. If you promote it right, maybe up to 50 or 60. It's not a comic book movie, so it's not going to make 80 or $100 million. But I think Sony realizes there's an audience for this. People like great inspirational stories. You got a great cast and an awesome story, and it's great to have St. Louis in the front of this.
Yay.
So that's awesome. Audio cut of the day is coming up.
Oh yeah. Radio.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Wow, what a great commute. It's obviously a holiday weekend. Westbound 70 is great out of downtown. There's a little bit of volume eastbound 70, just east of Forestell and pockets through Wentzville. I am convinced that's Mizzou students or people out of town heading in town for the weekend. And we look fine on southbound 55, the rest of the interstates. It's even quiet on the Illinois side. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
Hey, it's Mark Reardon. If you're nearing retirement or already retired, call my friends Thomas Helbig and Bob Kershaw with the Retirement Advisory Group. They'll show you how linking to the market is much safer than owning the market for your retirement savings. They're the official financial advisors of my show. Go to retirementkey.com. Wow, I can make a case for too much me on the show this afternoon, but let's talk a little bit here about Michael's Flooring Outlet because I love Mike Reynolds and the team. We put them to work. I've been talking about them for a long time, and I've gotten to know Michael's and, what they do out in St. Peter's and Darien Prairie and in West County on Olive. But I also got to put him to work with a flooring project because we needed to get some carpeting out of my daughter's bedroom and the guest room right across the hallway. And Mike and the team helped us do that with a great hard flooring product that looks fantastic. And we did it on a budget. Now, they have 3 great locations. As I indicated, they're not going to be open on Easter because they're closed every Sunday, which is awesome for the team. But if you need flooring, if you need hard flooring, you need Mohawk silky soft carpeting, some of the best in the industry, they can guide you into the best product for your lifestyle and your situation. IGotFloored.com. That's the website. 3 awesome area locations: Old Town St. Peter's, Darien Prairie, and in West County on Olive. Michael's Flooring Outlet.
Hi, this is Steve Butts with the Crawford Butts Insurance Agency. I know we're all experiencing sticker shock when you get your insurance premium. Now more than ever, you need an independent insurance agent to find the best value for your family's insurance needs. Crawford Butts, family owned and operated for more than 60 years. Please give us a call at 314-752-2500 or at crawfordbutts.com.
This station is now conducting a test of the emergency alert system. This is only a test.
Since we have lawyers in all 50 states, I see and hear lots of lawyer ads. It seems that most are bragging on what they got their clients. But be careful. If you heard that someone sold their car for $500,000, you would be impressed. But if you later learned that it was a rare $10 million Ferrari, would you say that person got screwed? And that's before you even know if it's true. Who is fact-checking? And how much went to medical bills and lawyers' fees? If you want to get an idea what your case may be really worth, visit forthepeople.com and go to Settlements and Verdicts. You will see what a law firm like ours is capable of, and fact check for yourself. all that glitters is not gold. We became America's largest injury firm for a reason. We won big, a lot. At Morgan & Morgan, we represent consumers. Morgan & Morgan, for the people.com.
Injured? Dial pound law or visit forthepeople.com for an office near you.
Farming's hard. To feed the world, farmers have to work the land, brave the elements, and fight the battle against weeds. Weeds reduce crop yields, so prices go up and everybody gets less to eat. But 50 years ago, farmers got a new tool to fight weeds, glyphosate. It kills weeds while protecting the harvest. Time and again, it has been approved by the EPA and by leading regulatory bodies around the world. It helps enable practices that reduce erosion and keep soil healthy, which is good for the earth. Farming's hard, but it's a little easier with glyphosate. Learn more at go.bayer.com/glyphosate. Paid for by Bayer.
The Mark Cox Morning Show.
Monday, have you struggled to find a primary care physician? That problem may only get worse. We'll talk to Dr. Bill Hennessy about it at 7:35.
The Mark Cox Morning Show. Weekdays from 5 to 9. Right here on 97.1 FM Talk. Broadcasting what most people are afraid to say. Mark Reardon.
You know, I felt like a little Night Ranger was appropriate this afternoon. I do love this song so much.
Oh, I haven't heard this in a while.
Kelly Kagi, who's the drummer for Night Ranger, may have been the nicest rock star that I've ever met in my entire life. He and Jack Blades were actually awesome, but I like this song, and it's got a great guitar part at the end, and Kelly slams on the drum kit extremely well. So here is, well, let me just hit this first, okay? So we can just get into it here on Friday.
Stand by. Playback ready.
Now, the audio cut of the day.
So the most embarrassing man on the planet, that would be Senator Van Hollen from Maryland, has returned from his trip to El Salvador, meeting with the wife beater and gangbanger, Mr. Abrego Garcia. And here's what he said today. Van Hollen said this: "It's about protecting the constitutional rights of everyone who resides in America." Here's a quick question. Where the hell were those rights for 4.5 years when Biden was letting everyone over the border, hundreds of thousands at a time? What about the constitutional rights about the rest of us that reside in America? But I think Stephen Miller does a better job here with the media of, what's the term I'm looking for here? Shut the kids' ears for a second. Oh, yeah, he bitch slapped them.
Can anyone here tell me what would happen to the illegal alien from El Salvador if he came back to the United States? Does anyone here know? Anyone want to guess? Any of you?
He could be with his family.
What do you know the difference between a deportation order and a withholding order? Do you know the difference? Any of you, please. Do you?
Well, we're not in the government.
But you couldn't even spend 72 hours over the weekend learning the distinction, even though you've been writing and talking about it this whole time.
This is a great point. The guy goes, "Well, we're not in the government." Wait, you're a reporter that's doing a story on this that's supposed to communicate the facts to the American people.
What I'm getting from this conversation, which is educational for me, is that not one person in the media knows the difference between a deportation order and a withholding order. Is that a fair statement? You're learning about this all for the first time right now? I guess so. Okay.
Wow.
So the deportation order means the judge has said he must be deported from the country. He has no right to remain here any longer. He must be removed from the country. So his only options are to be deported to his home country or another country. That's it. There's no other option. He doesn't get to stay here. He doesn't get to live here. He has no future here. He has no right to be here. He's an illegal alien. So when you keep saying return, because you've been spun up by the open borders advocates, you all seem to be operating under the illusion that he would be able to come to the United States and just continue to live here illegally. That's not an option available to him. His only choices in life are to live in El Salvador or to live in another country. That's it. There's no other option, legally or otherwise, because he came to our country illegally. Do you understand that?
I don't think they do.
He would be arrested. Okay. He'd be put in confinement. He would be deported the second time to El Salvador again, because there's no withholding order for an alien who's a member of a foreign terrorist organization, number one. Number two is the gang that he's a member of doesn't exist in El Salvador anymore. So what you're asking for is to be deported twice. But additionally, if we chose to just pretend that the withholding order was real, he would be deported to a different country. So, for example, he could be deported to Egypt. So I'm just trying to understand, is it your view, in other words, you define a country that would be willing to take a MS-13 member from El Salvador. So I'm trying to understand from you all is, so if he came back and under our laws, he was then deported to Egypt or to Somalia, would you then be saying, great, I'm so glad that you deported him to another country? Is that what you'd all be saying?
Ooh, they were struggling there for answers to Stephen Miller. You don't really want to debate with Stephen Miller.
No.
I thought that was awesome. I'm actually okay with them giving him caviar on a flight back on Air Force One. Put him in front of the judge, send his ass back again. There you go. Have a great weekend. We'll end on a very positive note, Sue.
Happy Easter.
All right, we'll see. Yeah, happy Easter.
Catch anything you missed today by getting the show podcast at 971talk.com. Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
There is a little bit of volume east and westbound 70 in the Wentzville area, but that's about it. Other than that, we look good. Now, there's some moderate volume that comes and goes across the Poplar Street Bridge westbound, and 6440 a little slow at Clayton Skinker. But other than that, we look good. Have a great weekend. This report brought to you by Point with an E Pest Control. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
Call Point Pest Control, mention Annie, and get 10% off your pest problem. Once summertime hits, ant populations begin to reach peak numbers, maybe even into the millions. Call Point Pest Control before they invade your home. Call Point Pest Control, 636-798-0023.
You know, I mentioned this a couple of months ago. I have two friends who are going through a divorce right now, and I kind of noticed